Let the crowd roll in. We're gonna have some fun tonight. How's the audio? Huh? It is? Tell me when it gets better. Better? I got an audio engineer. Too loud now. Okay. How about now, Sis? How's it doing? Good? Y'all let me know. The music's not gonna be on for very long. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Hello, everyone. How you doing today? Hopefully, I'm coming through loud and clear. How does everything sound? Am I good? That good. That good. I'm looking at you, crowd. I'm looking at you. How's everything look? How's it sound? Am I sounding good? I want to make sure everything's just right for tonight. Take a few minutes just to do some housekeeping. I sound great. Thanks, Shiz. Appreciate it, sir. All right, 4 a.m. Hey, thanks, Nix, for being here. Appreciate you being here. Mad Court, thank you for being here. All right. We're loading up. We're loading up. All right, good, good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Come in. Make yourself at home. We're gonna have a great time tonight. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Kind of spooky. Yeah, a little spooky. Well, I wanted to be a little bit animated, what can I say? Um, but it is what it is. I'm just an idea after all. How you doing? Hey, Moose. Hey, Darth. Too many mods? Well, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have a blast tonight. As the crowd rolls in, I'll just be saying hello to the chat and letting you know kind of what we're gonna be doing tonight. I'm gonna do a little intro here, and then we're gonna bring in our special guest, and then we'll start the movie, and we'll get right into it. That real quick. No, we don't want to add that. We want to stop that. Okay, there we go. And we're gonna do this. Okay, how's everybody doing tonight? You guys ready for a good time, man? Some of this stuff tonight is gonna break the internet. I promise you. People will have to be redoing a few things. It's gonna be kind of fun. Let's see, tab. There we go. We went that one. We went this one next. Okay. Oops, not yet. Not yet. Okay, not yet. Not yet. Okay. Well, let me see. We got 15 in the house. 15 in the house. Yeah, we're gonna break it. We're gonna break it, Shiz, for sure. There's some things here that is gonna be brand new information, but first we're gonna take a walk down memory lane. Walk down information highway, if you will, and we're gonna learn about something that not a lot of people know about, and that's the troubled teen industry and what it's done to kids in America. And we're gonna meet some people that it's actually affected. So that's good. It's going to be interesting. It's a good information for people that are parents and people that want to be parents to understand that these kind of things happen in this world. As you guys have probably heard me say before, there is a strong problem in this country and in this world with abuse, and and this is just one aspect of it. However, this does roll into other aspects of our lives as streamers and such, and that'll be coming up as well. Hey TR, how you doing? Hey Mike, how's it going? Daisy, welcome, welcome. Cool Frog, let's break it. Let's break it. Yes sir, yes sir. All right. Yeah. I want to see if let's see, we got about let's do about another couple minutes of just chatting back and forth, and then I'll go ahead and make the first announcement. The first one's going to be a much needed announcement, something I've been dying to say and make, and I've kept to myself. Only a few people know about this, what I'm about to say, and I've kept it to myself for a reason, and I'll explain exactly why that is. Um, and it's gonna make someone a little upset, and that's okay. You can't make everybody happy, right? But it's gonna make someone a little upset, and well, what are you gonna do? But things will be made right tonight. I promise you that. Lots of things will be made right tonight. We're going to do some really good work here today, and we're gonna free a couple people from some uncomfortable situations that they've been in. So, oh, we're hitting 20. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. Please come in and say hello. Don't be shy. We're a very friendly group here, and we have a lot of great, incredible people in the audience, like Madcore Mofo, TR, Nix, Daisy, Mike, Cool Frog, Shizzle. We got Talking Trash the Truth. Welcome, Miss Shelley. I'll get the Moose Maneuver. Yes, 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 yes. Cat Ninja, welcome, welcome. How you doing? Good to see you here, Miss. Hello, Rabbit. Hello, Rabbit. I'm so happy you're here. All right. Yes. Let's see. I'm just scrolling back to make sure. Oh, of course, Alyssa Cliffs. Welcome, Alyssa Cliffs. It's so good to see you. The hardest working girl in the clip business, right there. Vicky T, what's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing? How you doing? All right, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're gonna have a blast tonight. I promise you. I promise you, we're gonna have a blast tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the promo, the dance. Hey Tam, how you doing? So happy you're here tonight. All my mods, thank you so much for being here. Be on your toes tonight. We wanted to eliminate or kind of keep any of the trollyverse trolls to a minimum. Just because of the nature of the situation here, and we don't want them jumping ahead of schedule, if you will. So we will make sure that please make sure that they're well taken care of and not able to disrupt the good programming going on here tonight. Okay, so we're about 22. We got about one more minute, and I'm gonna break right into the first big announcement tonight. 23. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're up 23. Welcome, welcome. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. This first one's going to be pretty good. I think really the first topic is that it's something that not a lot of people have that much knowledge of. Some people do, but they've been nice enough to not jump to conclusions, and I really appreciate that. All right, here we go. All right, so the first big announcement is tonight. My good friend, Mr. Mr. Monty, my good friend. He let's talk about how this started first, okay? So how this all started and how we got to Elon is um good for our good buddy Mr. Monty um he's a hammer and everything's a nail in his world, right? So when he first appeared back 3 months ago, he jumped in on a very sensitive topic I believe, just to take a shot at Mr. Nick Rekieta. Um, and we were all there. I think most of us were there, and we saw it. It was quite an event. And hi, conspiracy music. How you doing, buddy? And we all saw this, right? We saw him. We know because we were there because we were interested in the Keffels part of this. And Keffels had, of course, the trans activist that was in a battle with Kiwi Farms. Nick had Kiwi Farms on, and that bothered them. So just to speak the truth about the matter, right? To get to the bottom of things. And what happened with that is that they've tried to they basically ganged up on Nick, and they sent in a gang, basically a blanket um, complaint, ethics complaint to his local bar in Minnesota. And of course, Nick's a lawyer, and they were hoping to get him disbarred. So they sent a chain letter. They all copied the same one, of course, except for Keppels. Of course, they didn't put their name on the line, but they had everybody else do it for them. And then Nick, of course, went on, and you see my video, the one that is done fairly well. If it wasn't for YouTube, it probably would have done a lot better. But we've seen that one, right? And we've seen that in that video he read a list of names, and Monograph didn't like that very much, and he decided to jump in and assume that that was a some kind of threat or intimidation tactic by Nick. I don't know that he actually believed that, but maybe it was just a tactic. He's a very strategic man, yes, indeed. But he um, he jumped in a big crowd, right? And the big crowd saw him. A lot of us for the first time. We actually would not have really known or remembered him had he not. I guess it's good marketing on his part, but it set an impression. And then Nick Rekieta, our good friend Nick Rekieta, he kind of made light of the situation, which I really wouldn't recommend anyone do, simply because while he may not be very serious about it, Mr. Monty is very serious about what he does. So part of my mission here today is to at least set out a roadmap, or today, or coming in the coming weeks, with this effort. Let me say it that way. With this effort is to set out a roadmap for people, basically to understand the situation before they decide to get involved with it. Since that date, 15 people have either been doxxed or attempted to be doxxed as a result of interacting with Mr. Monty, right? Well, you would think he would just want to be left alone, right? But that's not quite the case. He does like to identify and locate people, which is something that he's been doing for quite a long time, and I guess has grown into a habit or a gimmick. Who knows? Ever but what we need to know about this is that he is very serious about this, and then when he does release the information, he puts those people in a type of danger. Um, Not often does it follow through all the way, but in some cases, it's led to some very bad things in the past. So, not something I would recommend anyone doing that doesn't seriously want to follow through with what they're getting yourselves into. I would say if you were going to interact with Mr. Monty, you need to be very careful, and you need to protect yourself up front. Um, but I do not recommend it. I think that the best course of action is to ignore it and leave it alone, and just let him go about his business. And anyone like him, trolls on the internet can be a wide range of things. They can be just some smart ass in the chat, just wanting to get people's goats, or they can be a very serious online stalker. So you need to be careful when you're interacting with these people, and understand who it is that you're interacting with. Now, most of us had no knowledge of Montegraph, and that's where I found an issue with this. That there wasn't enough good information out there about him, and I realized that in this in this in this capacity that I actually had started noticing him and his group around a little bit earlier in the Viva Fry Alex Jones coverage, because these guys hate Alex Jones. So they tend to go there and just make a mess wherever they are. And of course, Viva is of a certain persuasion that tends to not be very liked within that group as well. I won't blanket accuse anybody of being anti-Semitic, but the general alt-right's position is that the Zionists rule the world. So while there's maybe some involved in high-level things, I certainly do not agree with that whatsoever. Um, that's another topic for another day. However, I'd like to just touch on that just to kind of tell you that I noticed the pattern. And the reason why I noticed the pattern was because 10 years ago, or more, I was an online activist, and I was fighting for the liberty movement, the liberty faction. I was supporting Ron Paul, and I was a part of a group called the 100th Monkey Movement, where we would go out and we would try to derail and we would definitely would debunk all the conspiracy theories that would send patriots into a downward spiral of discredited status where that made the entire group of us look bad. We didn't want anything to interrupt our ability to help Mr. Paul, Dr. Paul, excuse me, help Dr. Paul um, to hopefully gain the nomination and become president because we were interested in having the first really honest anti-establishment president, anti-establishment president and honest president that of our lifetime. At that point, we had been going back and forth between the Bushes and the Clintons, and it seemed like just a shared monarchy seat, if you will, to a lot of us. Unfortunately, what happens to people when they first come into the light of understanding that the establishment media is a subversion machine, and they had been bottled into this false narrative most of their life, this false left-right paradigm. That when they figure this out and they wake up, and it's called waking up, and waking up was the original term, and then they tried to steal that with woke. Of course, now what we say is we're too awake to be woke, right? So we went out and debunked all these conspiracy theories, and we would approach them within our neighborhood. So this was on Facebook, and our motto was mind, take police your own neighborhoods, and together we will all be there for each other. But if we all take care of our own neighborhoods, then we're taking care of everything, right? So um, the reason why I'm telling this story is that one of the narratives that we fought very hard against for many months and did eventually did defeat was the crisis actor state event narrative, as made famous by Sandy Hook. Um, Now I always thought during that time, and I did find some hives of information where these very elaborate conspiracy theories are being shuttled out between members and distributed across the internet. Um, but that went and it passed. We beat it to death during the Boston bombing incident, where they totally jumped the shark with their information, trying to claim that this elaborate production hoax was pulled off in public, in front of everybody, and that nobody was hurt there. That Jeff Bauman did not lose his leg, and so on. This was complete lies, and we were able to then stomp them out. Then they kind of disappeared. Now, I after Ron Paul did not get the nomination and the election was over, I went on hiatus. I left the Monkees. The Monkees kind of just became something else, and that's what it is today. That's fine. That's all well and good. There were some other groups involved in there I'm not going to mention that were a little bit more granular in a sense, and more of on the attack mode and involved in that. But the Monkees were there to help educate people about what real truth was and to keep them away from what fake truth was. All right. So here we are now. We're back up to present. I had noticed a pattern that I recognized from those days in Viva's chat, and I kind of just went with it, and said, "Oh, this is interesting." I threw some bait out there, and they took it, and I was like, "These are the same guys." It got my curiosity rolling, and if you were part of my streams at that time, you would have heard me talk about this. Um, and a lot of people, this is new news, right? But when Monty reappeared on Nick's stream, right? Um, we all kind of were like, "Wow, this is this clown that according to Nick," and it was kind of funny, and he got memed and all that other funny stuff, and people started coming out with all these rumors, right? I will tell you right now, I did not participate in any of these rumors. None of the rumors. Um, I didn't participate in it. I merely looked at the association. I was more interested in the past. So I wanted to do a timeline. I kind of wanted to do a research mission, if you will, and figure out if this was the same guy that may have been part of this group way back when. But he was on YouTube and web TV and other places, so we didn't actually interact. My curiosity got the best of me, and I kind of reacted a little too soon. That I think I would have done things differently now. But I kind of like thought, well, hey, look, he seems like he doesn't mind people doing parodies like I'm doing. That's all I was doing. And maybe I can entice him into doing an interview with me. I would love to have done it. Just a reasonable sit down, um, talk about it and just ask him about the past and ask him about certain things. Do you still believe these things? Where do you stand today? Have you changed your mind? What about this time period? Do you know who was behind this information originally? And that's really what I wanted to find out. And I figured, hey, let's put a timeline together at the same time. Um, he did not take that very well because of my associations and others that were around me that were diving into some of the Kiwi Farms bits and other things that were there that had information on them, but hadn't quite sealed the deal, if you will. There was a lot of things said that kind of put me in that boat. That's fine. Okay. I think that regardless of it, in fact, he may have never approached me in a civil way. Looking back, maybe that's my lack of knowledge. Like I said, I would have done this a little differently because I would have done more research, like the research I've done now. So I started putting together a timeline, and I came to this point in the timeline where I found that he had apparently had attended something called Elan School, and I was not familiar with Elan School. So I did my due diligence, and I went and learned about it. And what I found was shocking, and it caused me to gain a certain amount of empathy for the man. And I felt like he was trapped in that time again for maybe because of the troll wars that went on 10 years ago, where he was involved. To give Mr. Monograph credit, he is the king of trolls. All hail the king. He did survive. He did survive, and he did come out on top. So he is the king. Let us not forget that. Let us pay reverence to the man on that front. However, hey Thermo, how you doing, buddy? However, that's the crown he wants to wear. Thank you so much, TR. Appreciate. Thank you so much. I appreciate the. I appreciate it. Let me put that up there real quick. Thank you so much, TR, for the $2. I certainly appreciate it. You are a good man, sir. TR is an American hero in himself in training. He's a trucker. He's the one who helps keeps this world moving. So everybody give a big hand to TR and thank him for what he has now decided to dedicate his life to. Thank you, Mr. TR. You're a hell of a guy, man. Thank you so much. Hey, 2B Flair, how you doing? How you doing? Cool story, bro. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. Um, so anyways, where were we at? Okay. So the approach didn't go well. And he took me as a threat. I really didn't want to be a threat. And I would say that, Mr. Monty, if you're listening, you probably should have done the interview, bud. I would have really stopped. I really would have stopped a long time ago had you not decided to attack me. You say you're just responding. I dare you to go find where I attacked you. If it wasn't a response to your own attack, that's just kind of your thing, right? You attack and then you say you're responding, and you attack first, okay? But I do empathize and I do understand that people have said things about you that aren't true. I've done a hell of a lot of research that will come out in weeks to come. That will clear you in many ways, and that will not clear you in other ways. Um, it's just what it is. I'm about the truth. I'd rather know the truth than be right. That's why I don't open my mouth about things like the big P word and the big M word with an L and O and a melon O. I don't open my mouth until I know for sure. Right? That's what winning reality is about. Winning in reality is perfectly humble and ready to say he is wrong when he is wrong. I am a human. I make mistakes. I am a human. I have good days and bad days. So I'm perfectly willing to humble myself and to realize when I need to adjust my thinking and adjust my mindset so that I am operating in truth. Truth is the most important thing to me, and that's what this is going to be about tonight. All right. So we are now caught up, if you will. I think my guest had a little connection issue, so I'm waiting for him to come back in. Hopefully, he will be here soon. But I still have another part of this to say. So when this issue started between me and Monty, he did his normal thing, and he's got his little jacket on, and he got his editing machine out, his editing software out, and he went and did a little October Rains video about me. He thought. Now, I watched a lot of his videos leading up to that point before I went into research mode. So I know that it wasn't necessarily his research. And I'll never pin this on him except for the video. But I know that for a fact he got the information from his head mod, the Mighty Baboon. Wait, hold on. Did I say that right? the mighty is it Mighty Baboon? I mean, he shows his ass all the time, so maybe he is a baboon. But, yeah, he has a megaphone. He lives in Minnesota. Nick's talked about it. The Mighty Terry, is that hold on, am I getting this right? Nimmer's baboon, what is that right? Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a combination of those words. But yeah, if you ever meet Monty's head mod, you know, uh, he might be up in Minnesota with a bullhorn. He might be part of Liar News. He might be sending emails to women and harassing them constantly with very long-winded, uh, the what do you call it? Lack of a better word, but very long-winded, uh, childlike uh, uh, rhetoric, if you will. Yes, and yeah, he's a real pain in the ass, but he's not very effective. And yeah, with a long criminal history like his, he should actually really watch himself, and he should be on his best behavior, along with his good friend, Mr. Brock. Mr. Brock, the person he tried to frame Mercado with that super chat. We all know that mess. He mentioned it in his letters to these fine ladies that he's harassing. So, Mr. Monty, if you're listening, sir, I do not blame you for this false dox or this near miss, we'll say. But you didn't get the right guy. Unfortunately, you did get my landlord who provides free internet that comes with an IP address. My internet is actually in a mesh internet underneath that one. So I did not think that it would go this far. Had I done that, I would have called my landlord and taken care of that. And I'm going to leave that right there. And I'm just going to say that, Mr. Monty, I believe that your mod may be, waiting for the day that you are, not around to take your place. I would be very careful of that man. He seems to not be of a high character. Of course, not nearly as skilled as you, sir. And I would just be, I would keep better company, man. You're the king. You're the king. You don't need to have jokers like that around. But that's up to you, sir. I know that he does everything that you say when you say it, and that's very handy, isn't it? However, since you messed with one of my boys, I just messed with one of yours. And we're gonna leave it at that. Now, I understand why Mr. Nimbus may have been confused. See, if you knew my background like my friends do, or you even have seen my face like some of my friends have, you'd know that that person you put in that video is not me. And it's not my friend either, my landlord friend. No, it is somebody that you pulled off the internet that has nothing to do with either one of us. And gosh, do I sound like I look like that? Jesus. Anyways, I suggest that you pull those videos down for your own reputation's sake, sir. Um, but we'll leave it right there for that part of it. And like I said, I do not blame you for the information. You got it from a mighty baboon. Okay. So that with that to rest, something I've been dying to say, but I did not bring it up because I felt like I didn't want people to go and to mess with this person who was innocently involved. I actually had him come by and do a video, but then I decided with me, and then I decided to do it differently. So I appreciate his time. I'm sorry for his inconvenience. And if you knew my background, you know that I moved down to Atlanta. Well, you know that I've where I'm from, of course, Virginia Beach. But you also would know that I had a very big group of friends there, and that very big group of friends and I actually were at the same college. After they got there, really, I was the last one to show up there because I went to another one first, a bigger one. I went academic, and then I went fun times. So that's when I figured out I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I might as well go where my friends are and have a blast because they kept telling me how much fun it was to go to a school like the school you went to and graduated from. And you probably don't know that I moved down to Atlanta with about 20 people. And in that group of 20 people, there was many musicians and many people who went into the tech industry and many people who went into the same type of industry I did. Not something I talk about too much because they're not really around so much these days in what I'm doing here. However, they have been part of my life for a very long time, and they've all done many different things. So the confusion and I can see, but that's just Slack research. It's just going and maybe just too feel like you're too on it. I have no idea. I won't drag this out any longer. However, I just wanted to say, let's just stop that right now. Okay. And I do suggest for your reputation's sake, you do follow that advice I gave you. So back to the story. Now that that's out of the way, I need to check and see what's going on with my friend Mark because he dipped out and he's not being able to make it back yet. But that's not going to stop us. So what I'm going to do instead of introducing him now is I'm going to go ahead and get started to show the Elan School Documentary known as The Last Stop. And when I get him back in here, I'll stop it and do the intros, and then we'll go from there. But before I get started, I'm going to check back in with the chat real quick. Hello, how's everybody doing? I'm just going to say hello and make sure I don't have any questions before I get started. I think everybody's just having a blast out there right now, so we'll leave it at that. Hi, Divinity. How you doing? How you doing, the trees? Nice to see you. Nice to see so many new people here. I'm really having a blast, and we're really gonna do some good stuff tonight. So hang tight, and let me go ahead and get this set up, and we will be on our way. Let's see, we're gonna do a tab, and we're gonna do this one, and we're gonna share it. All right, and away we go. Let me know if I have any audio.
Where would you all be if you weren't here? Where would you end up?
How's it sound, guys?
You'd either be in jail, in a hospital, or dead. Okay? You know, it's time to take your life seriously. Get your feelings off.
You're a worthless piece of shit! You're nobody to me! I'll fucking slay you! You foreign motherfucker! You lagging piece of shit! I'll cut your fucking lip off and beat you fucking with it! Piece of shit asshole! I'll fucking kill you! I don't give a fuck
Thanks,
who
PR.
you are! You're nobody! You're stuck here for good! And I'll make sure of that! Fuck you!
My parents tell me, they're like, well, next week we're going to look at boarding schools and just pack enough stuff, you know, for a week or whatever. And we're just going to go look at like 2 or 3 different schools. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, called my friends. I was like, oh, I'm going to be gone for a week. I'll see you in like a week, you know, da-da-da. Packed like a bag, took all my music with me because I didn't go anywhere without my music. Left everything else behind, and I'm like, well, I thought we were going to Massachusetts. And my parents like, the plane is going to Maine.
I did not want to go up to Maine. I'd already heard a little bit about it ahead of time. And I knew it was going to be very strict, though I didn't know just how strict.
It used to be that we had bad kids who were locked away in reform schools and sick kids who were locked away in mental hospitals. But in the past decade, we've been seeking an alternative. Instead of simply punishing unacceptable behavior, we've been looking for ways to change that behavior. This facility, called Elan, claims to be able to do that.
Why was I sent there?
That's heavy, man. Why was I in Elan?
From a very young age, things went very badly for me.
I was pretty angry and confused about a lot of things, and I was just like constantly trying to distract myself. So I was, you know, whatever drugs I can get a hold of, if that was what it was, or just not going to school.
Freshman year, I'm trying to think. I put roaches in a girl's purse as a prank pre-lunch, so she'd like open them and whatever. The school charged me with assault for that.
Well, I was always in trouble with the law. When I was 8 or 9 years old, if you had something that I wanted, I'd break in your house when you weren't there and take it.
I got jumped by a couple of juniors. I beat the fuck out of one kid who started it, and they charged me with assault and battery for that. And then just a whole litany of bullshit like that, pretty much. It was all the same, or like instigating a fight, or being involved in this. Me, you know, I mean, I could get laid, smoke a lot of bud, enjoy myself, have good music, like to go see the Grateful Dead.
I know for me, it was pretty much about getting as fucked up as you could dancing as hard as you could for as long as you could and listening to music.
Or I could go home, be to bed at 10 o'clock, get up at 6, go to school. It was a no-brainer. It's just, when you start at 12, they get kind of a little pissy about it.
I started using drugs when I was like 13. I mean, if you consider marijuana a drug, like I was 13. I snorted coke when I was like 14 at some house party I was at. Prior to me going to Elan, I was mostly smoking pot and eating acid, drinking occasionally.
Drinking was getting really dangerous and out of control. About a month before I went to Elan, I ran away off a home pass from a psych hospital and stole a bunch of beer out of the back of a restaurant, and they found me on a friend's driveway. While on lithium and Prozac, I drank all this beer and just basically passed out on their lawn. They thought I was dead.
When I found out about Peter's heroin use, I was very scared for him.
My mother came in my room and my friend and I were shooting up.
I ratted him out because I was that scared.
I was going to buy bud for my girlfriend, and I was getting me Adderall for like tests and shit. Yeah, pinch with that. I think it was like a quarter of weed and like a couple pills.
And I was on probation at the time. So my mother called my probation officer, and I woke up the next morning and he was standing at the foot of my bed with a urine cup.
Possession, intent to distribute it in a school zone. Fucking horrible. At 15, like caught like a class, whatever, like possession, intent to distribute charge. Like that's what ruined me.
It started when I was a kid at about 8, when my dad died. And I got slightly out of control with mom and couldn't handle me and all that, I guess. And I ended up in one home.
When they started sending me to group homes and foster homes and things like that is where I learned how to misbehave, and I learned about drugs, and I learned because I didn't know any of that stuff when I was living with my mother and my stepfather. I didn't run the streets, I didn't get in trouble, I wasn't truant, any of that. It took me getting into the system to learn how to do those things.
And back then they really didn't have too many rules about what you could and couldn't do to kids, so it was rather abusive.
I was in the Connecticut Junior Republic. It was a boys' home. I was little. I was from Bridgeport. I didn't know them. They didn't want to know me. They wanted to rape me. They wanted to beat the shit out of me.
And I escaped from there.
Then I got into some trouble with the law, and I was sent to Long Lane.
So all the bruises are showing up on me. What do you think? They didn't do anything. So you take matters in your own hand. You just get them all. Get them all at once. I barricaded the room. I let them all go. That was the end of that.
I was institutionalized from when I was 13 until I was 18. There was a 3-week break that I did come home, but that's when I took that overdose of alcohol and Prozac. After I had been in the hospital for an overdose, I tried to kill myself in the hospital. I had broken a light bulb and actually cut my wrist, and then I had also run away.
I've been hospitalized several times and pretty much ran away from every place my parents put me in.
The dead were always on tour, so there was always somewhere else to go.
The more I escaped from another place, then I went to a worse place and a worse place, until I finally found myself in places that were more brutal than I wanted to deal with, put it that way.
Adolescents are very shrewd. If you go into a hospital and you don't want to stay there, all you have to do is make an aggressive gesture at a nurse and you're kicked out. Or all you have to do is light your bed on fire and you're kicked out. So consequently, kids learn how to get out of treatment.
They were trying to find a school that would keep me, no matter how many times I ran away. Finally, in August, when I was 12, they shipped me up to Elan because Elan said that they kept runaways.
At Elan, the first thing they learn is you're not going to get out of here. If you burn the place down, we'll sleep in a tent together. No matter how many times you run away, we will go and get you. Why? Because we have a commitment, all right, to you and to ourselves.
What I did was wrong. They did CAT scans on me and all that. And so next thing I know, I went before a judge.
Instead of me going to Leahy in Worcester, which is like the juvenile facility they have out here, they offered up a plea for me to go to Elan instead.
I was 12. They said, you're going away until you turn 18.
They were explaining that it would be like more intense than juvie, pretty much.
I got on a plane. I went to Elan.
The court officers took me to an airport where Dr. Davidson came down on the plane. I had never had a driver's license. I had never paid attention to where we were going. And all of a sudden, I was in the middle of the woods in Maine.
I was like, I'm in the fucking boondocks. This is like nuts.
Some of the kids have mentioned that they or their peers were snatched. What does that mean?
Yeah, I remember that night.
Well, it's usually in the morning, you see, when 4 residents, generally big people, you know, or taller and heavier, will show up at someone's house and go into a new resident's bedroom and say, "Hi, Johnny, we're from Elan and we'd like you to come with us." And they talk very nicely, but they're big and they're strong and they're insistent and there are 4 of them. And so it happens.
I was sleeping in my bed, and probably at about 4 a.m., 2 guys came into my room, woke me up. One of the guys said, "We're taking you to your new school." My mom was telling me this was for the best. Tried to run, they grabbed me, and they threw me in a van and drove me up to Poland Springs, Maine.
So I get off the plane, and there's like 2 kids, just gigantic, huge kids, like maybe a year older, maybe 2 years older than me, and like 2 adults. They're like, "We're taking you to the school." You know, they didn't really tell me too much about where I was going. So all of a sudden, we're like going up this like dusty dirt road.
I just remember thinking, you know, God, this place is out in the middle of nowhere.
And there's like these like scatter houses. I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm going to summer camp.
And, you know, after you're in Long Lane for 6 months, you know, anything looks better. And a couple of staff came with really pretty pictures of the lake and, you know, the property. And, you know, it looked really nice. And they were talking about, you know, the horseback riding and canoeing and hiking and house trips. And I thought that I was going from complete lockup to summer camp paradise.
I'm like, where's the swimming pool, the horses, and the tennis courts?
So now, when I arrived in August of '73, VJ Day, as a matter of fact, I saw this white Victorian house sitting up on the hill, and my parents brought me in, and I was taken right into the director's office. Joe Ritchie.
We don't bullshit kids. We don't tell kids that this is some kind of utopia, that everything is going to work out for you.
And so they bring me into this trailer.
And we were being told about the program.
Look my mother straight dead in the eye and say, "This is the last stop on the bus."
Not one time did anybody say, even hinted at what I was about to go through.
If you don't send your son here, he's going to be dead. You can count on it.
You have 6 minutes to say goodbye to your parents. And if you say anything disrespectful to them, I'm going to put you in a corner. And I just looked at my dad, and I just was like shaking my head. I started crying. I was like just looked at him, because me and my dad were closer. Me and my mom always had issues. Me and my dad were very close. So I looked at him, I started shaking his head, and my dad started crying. And my mom was just like, "I can't." And like they left.
I couldn't believe they were going to leave me there. But after a while, they did, you know.
When I brought Mike here today, I just cried. And I knew, and the people in school knew, that he was coming up here to stay.
You know that if he doesn't change, he's going to get arrested. You know that sooner or later, he's going to steal something to get money.
I worried them a lot.
The phone rings at 10 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the morning.
You know, they were getting calls, 2, 3 in the morning from the cops.
You're shaking. You're wondering, what's this call going to mean?
Your son's run away again. We don't know where he is.
And that's the fear that we live in. We're ready to crack. This is an example. Ready to crack.
I love him so much. I wouldn't want to lose him. It's important for parents to know that we understand all of that. We're going to help your child work through all of that so that you can have the kid back that you remember and the one that you love.
I was raised by adopted parents who were very devout Catholics, my mother in particular. And she had a bad temper, She wasn't able to forgive me because I had bonded with one of the nuns at the infant home and preferred her over my adopted parents. You know, I'd always had an active imagination and a fantasy life, but it became more intense when I was around her. My father, he wasn't much help.
Our father was never present, and our mother drank too much, way too much.
I was taken away from my mother when I was 13. My mother had issues with alcoholism, and she married an extremely abusive man. You know, not only was he abusing my mother, but he was hitting me.
I was in a abusive home environment. You know, my mother was physically abusive, emotionally abusive.
My mother used to tie me to the radiator and beat the shit out of me.
She beat the crap out of me on several occasions.
You know, threw me in tubs with hot scalding water.
When I was 11 years old, she told me to get the fuck out of the house and not come back.
I go to grab some cookie. She kicked the chair from underneath me, split my head open.
I ran into my bedroom and tried to hide.
My eye right here above my eye, the bone is fractured.
My mom came in with a belt and beat the crap out of me.
And had it not been for the Mr. Bright, the people that live next door, probably would have been dead. That's when the state removed me from her.
My dad, from when I was as early as I can remember, he was physically abusive, mentally abusive, sexually abusive, and no one knew about it. My mother didn't know. It was only my brother and I who really knew, and that wasn't found out until Elan.
In my 17 years at Elan, I've seen a lot of kids come through the program who had some horrible relationships with family members who all still love each other very dearly, but had really hurt each other and had really done some pretty self-destructive and destructive things to other people in their family.
But it all got twisted and it all got confused. And I think the trouble then is, where do you release this? The hurt or this stuff. Where do you then take this? Because the perpetrators aren't going to talk to you about it. Okay, so where do you take it? And I think for a lot of us that went through Elan, that I know, some things happened, and then parents needed to dump. That was their solution.
So for me, the first day was one of extreme bewilderment and an ultimate realization that I was in for a new kind of life.
I said goodbye to my parents, and Mark Rosenberg took me down to Elan 8.
I went to Elan 3.
They sent me to Parsonsfield.
I went, of course, you know, you go straight to the dorm, and then you have your Quell shower, the famous Quell.
Yeah. All that, the louse shampoo and all that shit, like going up there for your indoctrination.
You have to change your clothes and remove your jewelry and, you know, your shoelaces and all that.
Take your fucking hat off. And you're gonna do this and that. Tuck your shirt. I'm like, just the regular emotions of like never hearing anything like this before in your life.
They asked me, why'd you run away from your last place? You know, being 16, and, you know, I was like, I wanted to get laid. I took a girl with me, you know. And Marty said to me, well, you can't get laid here. Can't even flirt here. And my jaw kind of dropped. It was like, yeah, you say that, but the students will say something else.
So some kid that was my SP and Claire walked me up to Elan 7, which wasn't far. But as I'm walking up there, I'm hearing like screaming.
So I walked in the door, and the first thing they told me was, you get to leave when you change.
So I get in Elan and I'm looking around in Elan 7 and I'm like, okay. This kid is scrubbing the corner. This kid is wearing a fucking piece of poster board around their neck. This kid is in the corner.
I see him in there, screaming, yelling.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Stand right there.
I just remember looking around, seeing people with signs and shaved heads and somebody wearing like a clown outfit.
I thought everybody was out of their minds.
I remember I was brought in during lunchtime, and I sat down at the table, and immediately I turned to the girl next to me. I'm like, this shit's fucking crazy. Like, where am I?
Where the fuck am I?
And apparently she was a non-strength. Immediately I got pulled into another room and I got dealt with.
So I started crying, like profusely crying. threw a tantrum, was like, I'm not staying here. It's like, I don't want to be here. Like, you made a mistake. Like, this is not me. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but y'all are fucking crazy.
I was almost begging to go back to the detention center.
It was surreal, to say the least. Like, it was unreal.
It was as if we were in a parallel universe, and for some reason the kids were all acting like they liked it. Very bizarre.
So I'm continuing to cry, and people are trying to tell me, like, you know, tighten up, using these terms that I've never heard. Like, you know, we're not going to placate you. At 16, I had no idea what placate meant. They're like, we're not going to placate you. You know, you need to tighten up. You're causing a scene. You're disrupting the community.
The first day at Elan, I had taken in the lunch line 2 milks instead of 1 milk.
Next thing I know,
general fucking meeting.
Get in front of your house.
Oh, fuck.
And all the kids are like, go, stand up there, stand up there.
I find myself up against the wall with about easy 150 people in that place.
So I'm standing up there and I'm still bawling my eyes out, crying.
When you got a GM, they break you down, man.
And Tanya just starts ripping me. Like, you know, you fucking are manipulative. You're a fucking lying brat. You fucking destroyed your family.
You couldn't do nothing but cry.
You destroyed your family. You know, you made everybody around you miserable.
They would talk about what you had done wrong in these terms, like you'd murdered somebody.
The house is worked up into such a feeding frenzy and into such a battle mode.
It's like the gladiators in the fucking Coliseum, man.
You could feel the house tremble.
Someone's thrown up there in chains and they let like all the tigers out.
So then, you know, she's like, does anybody else have feelings about this?
Does anybody have any feelings about it?
Who's got feelings for him? Get him.
Get his ass.
Next thing I know, I have like 50 fucking kids rushing at me.
People rush out. Cheers fly. You know, as they get out of their chair, it falls on the floor behind them.
They would bum rush you.
They're this far away from your face.
Screaming at
the top of their lungs.
You fucking asshole. How can you do this? I can't stand. I'm going to kick your motherfucking ass if I knew you on the street. You're a little mama's boy. You'd be sucking my dick. Blah, blah, blah. Spitting in your face the whole time, and you have to stand there like this.
When they finished with you, you were completely degraded, humiliated. You wasn't worth a damn.
Thank you very much, everybody. Great to hear all of you. Last week, 2 judges in Pennsylvania pled guilty to taking over $2.5 million in kickbacks for placing over 5,000 teens in private wilderness program and a juvenile detention center. What's shocking here is not just the judge's horrific misconduct, but the fact that the same thing takes place all the time legally in the private placements we've just heard about. Like the private prison business, this industry is about making money by locking up children. It is not about helping them. The treatment they sell is abuse.
When I was in college and in high school, I had a drug problem. I became addicted to cocaine and heroin. And I was afraid to get treatment because what I'd read about addiction treatment was that the whole idea was to humiliate and break and attack you. And I thought, that's exactly the opposite of what I need, because the reason I'm using drugs is because I feel uncomfortable and unsafe around other people. And so when I got into recovery eventually, I wanted to understand, where did this idea come from that we should break addicts to fix them?
Throughout the 1960s, many new treatment programs have been launched, in and out of government. Perhaps the most publicized is Synanon, a private organization founded and managed by ex-addicts.
Best thing for people is people, and Synanon provides the environment to bring together people from all walks of life.
Synanon was founded by a man named Charles Diedrich, an ex-alcoholic and frequent speaker at Alcoholics Anonymous. It was his answer to the dilemma drug addicts were facing during the early 60s. There was nowhere they could go for help. During that time, drug addiction was seen as much more severe than alcohol addiction. So Diedrich came up with a solution, using the 12 steps made famous in Alcoholics Anonymous, but with a new twist.
He thought that AA wasn't tough enough. He thought that the 12 steps were all well and good, but they really wouldn't work unless you forced people to do them.
At the core of Synanon were group sessions that relied on highly intense confrontation between group members.
Really? I want!
The idea was to break down an addict's defenses to make them reveal their innermost, deepest troubles. Only then would they be able to help themselves towards sobriety. In Synanon, this ideology was known as the game. Today, it's more commonly known as
attack therapy is basically the idea that you've developed this horrible, bad personality, and we need to attack you and break you entirely in order to eliminate it and to rebuild you as a good person.
Synanon achieved massive success. However, it wasn't long before stories of abuse and cult-like behavior began to emerge. And after a lengthy legal battle with the IRS, Synanon would eventually shut down. But not without leaving behind a legacy that is still being felt to this day.
After getting massive amounts of publicity, a major motion picture, all the evening news, all the big media was saying how this is this wonderful cure, it spread to New York, where Phoenix House and Daytop were founded.
Daytop Village is typical of the halfway house concept, where the addict is slowly eased back into society, one step at a time.
Synanon evolved into Daytop and other therapeutic communities. And Joe Ritchie went to Daytop.
The man who runs Elan is Joe Ritchie, himself a former delinquent and heroin addict.
Joe came out of Daytop in like 67 or 68. He went through the program, then he worked for it.
And ultimately wanted to found his own therapeutic version of Daytop.
And then he was introduced to Gerald Dibson.
Dr. Davidson was a Harvard-educated psychiatrist.
And they went up to Maine. From what I understand, Maine had less stringent laws on who could operate and what kind of permits you needed.
In 1970, Joe Ritchie and Gerald Davidson opened their first facility in the small town of Sebago, Maine. They called it Elan 1. And like Daytop, the program mainly focused on rehabilitating hardened drug addicts.
It started out early, it started out drugs. Right. And most of the people were 18 and over. As a matter of fact, they were well within their 20s.
Most of them were junkies, and Elan truly was their last stop before prison or death.
And then they were convinced that they could take on other people.
Runaways, a lot of runaways.
Running away or being truant from school.
Promiscuity.
Girls that had gotten pregnant as teenagers.
You're very violent offenders.
Stealing cars, breaking into houses.
Marty Maxwell was there. He was there for robbing banks.
Mugging people.
There were a lot of gang members.
We had manslaughter.
Held people at knife point.
Pedophilia.
Some kids I remember I had heard had raped people.
Maybe half of the people there had been sexually abused consistently.
People that had very serious emotional and psychological problems.
There were a lot of kids there that had been put in every kind of placement center or treatment or whatever you want to call it that their state could possibly send them to.
They come from mental institutions or juvenile detention centers.
And Elan was the last place that they would send these kids.
We started to move into autism. We started to move into Asperger's.
After I'd been at Elan for a few years and I was receiving a general meeting, the director suddenly turned to everybody and said, "Did you know that before she came to Elan, she had been diagnosed as semi-autistic?"
We started to move into, murder.
It was the night before Halloween 27 years ago when 15-year-old Martha Moxley was found beaten to death outside her home in upscale Greenwich, Connecticut. Among the suspects, her next-door neighbor, Michael Skakel.
Michael Skakel.
Michael Skakel.
Michael Skakel.
A Kennedy cousin serving 20 years to life for a murder that shocked the nation. Skakel was convicted in a 1975 murder of his 15-year-old neighbor in Greenwich.
It was at Elan, during group therapy, that Michael would allegedly confess to killing Martha Moxley.
We got way out of our purview there. Way out.
There were kids there who talked to boys, and that was their only problem. They talked to boys. They came from a religious family.
Just some kids just acted badly, and I think their parents had the money to send them there, so Elan took them.
For the most part, these troubled teen programs, the evaluation they do is what I'd call a wallet biopsy. Do you have enough money to afford it? Then yes, your problem is severe enough. That's it.
By 2011, the annual tuition for 1 year stay at Elan over $54,000.
That's far more expensive than even the most expensive university education. Do you still think it's worth it?
Yes, indeed.
Could you tell me why?
Well, what's the worth of a life?
In January of '74, there was a major fire. Though up in the attic, this boy named Bert set a fire because he hated the place, and he knew that a lot of us hated it too. He knew that the neighbors hated us and wanted us out. So he set a fire, and because the old house consisted of wood, it just burned fast.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to stop it for 1 second and welcome all the Elan survivors that are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are incredible people, and I'm happy to know you guys and to be playing this, featuring this movie tonight and helping raise awareness about what you guys went through. You're incredibly brave people, and please chat. Give everybody from Elan that's here tonight. Give them a round of applause in the chat. Let's put an S in the chat for survivors. Thank you so much, guys. Back to the movie.
After Elan 1 burnt down, operations were moved to a facility in Waterford. This would be Elan 2. Soon the main campus in Poland Springs was opened, and then a maximum security facility was established in Parsonsfield to house state wards and kids that were facing severe criminal charges. Yes, Elan certainly was Joe Ritchie's big success. And like any good businessman, he diversified his investments. He bought the Scarborough Downs racetrack.
Scarborough Downs still cut above the best.
And also ran for governor.
Hi, I'm Joseph Ritchie, Democratic candidate for governor.
Joe's empire was expanding, and so was the new troubled teen industry. Parents, psychologists, and courts from all over the world were sending their troubled kids to Elan for treatment.
The troubled teen industry has become connected. Sometimes a drug rehab will recommend a wilderness program, and sometimes a psychiatrist will recommend these things, largely because they're ignorant of what actually goes on, and also because, unfortunately, professional treatment is not always so professional either.
Get out and do it again. Do what everybody else has to do. Get it wrong. This lack of quality. This crap. Just will not be tolerated. Yeah, you're the first one to do it. Yes, sir.
Day in, day out, life at Elan is constant confrontation,
Yes, sir. It's your best unadjusted.
unrelenting pressure.
I couldn't believe all the shit that was left on those things.
Your feelings, your negative attitudes are broken down, dissected, torn apart. The idea is to change your behavior.
The Elan program was twofold. In one sense, there were therapeutic groups,
primal groups,
encounter groups,
a parent group. The other side of Elan was a functional working microcosm of the work world. Everybody had a job around the house, and everybody had to make the house, the society of sorts, to function.
It was very Lord of the Flies.
Yes, I've actually explained it that way to people I've known several times.
That's the best part. It's the most ingenious fucking thing ever. You have the prisoners run the prison.
It seemed like patients therapeutized the other patients.
It's great because everybody wants to move up.
We all know we want to get out of this place.
That's the only way that you can convince people to, I don't know, shut off their real human convictions.
You're disgusting in a way, man. Because everyone here is trying to be the exact opposite of what you are now, and you want to hold on to it. That's the disgusting part of it.
You just better start being honest with us, man, because everyone is getting pretty hostile.
And I bought into the whole thing. I am going to do whatever they tell me to do. Okay? I'm going to hurt anybody they want me to because I want to get out of here.
Elan does things a little differently, more of an emphasis on integrity, honesty, accountability, wellness kind of a model rather than a psychiatric or illness model. And the kids often don't know they're being therapized, if I can use that word.
Each Elan house functioned through the collective work of 5 offices. The service crew were the janitors, the kitchen crew handled the food, the business office filed paperwork, the communications office brought news from the outside world, and the expediters enforced security. Each office was managed by a specific hierarchy of positions that each resident had to work through in order to graduate the program.
I remember when you came in, you were non-strength and you were a worker.
Everybody went into service crew first, and you were a worker.
Let's go, John.
Elan residents are taught to obey authority. They're made to work at menial jobs, to do what they're told to do.
You just, you clean floors, you do this, you do that, you dust this.
And then you had a ramrod.
And you got some dudes coming around with a white glove, checking your workout, And if it wasn't right, well, you'd be there a half a day again redoing it.
There was worker and ramrod, and those were the two non-strength positions.
And in order to talk to somebody else that wasn't a strength, you had to have a strength being aware of your conversation.
Monitoring your conversation.
You would always have somebody watching you. You couldn't go to the bathroom on your own.
Each household is a tightly structured community. New residents do the dirty work under the supervision of more senior residents.
And then you would go to Expediter. Once you hit Expediter, that was the first time that you were like a strength.
Expediters were responsible for security.
The expediter is a policeman. They're the line of defense between the normal people and the lunatics.
The expediters had clipboards and they would be put on like certain designated spots throughout the houses called zones.
The expediters would watch the doors and make sure nobody ran. And then at the dorm, the night owl made sure that you didn't run in the middle of the night.
Expediter. In the households, discipline is maintained by an elite group called the expediters. They relay orders, keep track of every resident, and report negative behavior. Some call them spies.
They would watch and write down all the things that people have done wrong throughout the day.
They record the names, the actions of everyone in every room continuously.
I'll have to tell you, this is probably not something I should be proud of. Nobody ever ran away on my time.
At Elan, there is no privacy. Incoming mail is open. Outgoing mail is read and censored. Telephone calls are monitored. Every conversation is subject to eavesdropping and informing.
And then, was it department head from there? And then it was department head.
A department head was basically when you first became a manager.
Department head of the kitchen crew.
Easy president. And then you would go to Shingle. Shingle was the head of the expediters.
Michelle, take diaries on. Rachel, look the top one, please.
I'm pretty sure I was a Shingle for like a fucking year and a half.
And then you had coordinator.
Coordinator of communications. I loved being COD. COD stood for coordinator on duty. Pretty much you ran the house for that day. You were the boss, you were in charge, and you were accountable for everything that went on in your house.
Well, first of all, there were directors. And below them, there were assistant directors. And below them were staff. And the staff members were the people in reentry.
I did reentry staff. Then I never was officially hired.
It was a job for them until they went home or decided to stay.
You had hundreds of years of expert people up here to walk you through this, hold your hand, help you, push you through a window, pull you through a window, and help you change. So consequently, the only thing you have to do here is be as hardworking as you can and to be totally as honest as you can.
I don't know a lot about the staff at Elan. I do know that a lot of them were former residents who had graduated the program. And I don't know if there actually were any staff there with like formal psych training or anything. I don't think so. I never saw a psychiatrist while I was there. Never saw a psychologist.
These were all people who had no training, no psychology classes. Their only qualification was that they themselves had been through the program.
They thought that because they had been through experiences that qualified them to handle disturbed kids.
There are no national standards, nor even a consensus of expert opinion on how much formal training should be required of persons involved in treating troubled kids. But both Dr. Davidson, a trained psychiatrist, and Joe Ritchie, who did not graduate from college, believe that experience is the best teacher when it comes to helping the type of kids who come to Elan.
If you ask for help. Now, when you get shot down, you lose your position.
Yeah, I was shot down. I got shot down 3 times by having sex.
If you're going to be shut down, you have to scrub floors. You have to GI the toilets.
No. They ain't scrubbing. They're toothbrushes.
It doesn't matter if the floor is brand new. You've got to sit there and scrub it for 18 hours.
And God forbid you were a fucking shot down and you had to pee. Because you would have to go through a worker, a ramrod, a department head, a coordinator, a senior coordinator, and then to staff. So it had to go through like 11 different people for you to get permission to pee. You know? And then you had to find somebody to be aware of you while you peed because you couldn't go in the bathroom alone.
Throughout the day, residents functioned within their departments, only breaking for meals, meetings, a few hours of school at night, and of course, groups.
I remember there was a box at the front of the house and there was a little slip of paper.
Encounter groups.
You couldn't swear at somebody or tell them you hated them unless you were in a general meeting or group therapy.
If you were to make me angry, you told me to do something I didn't want to do, I'd write, to Todd from Gillian, anger. I'd circle that, drop it in a box.
Everybody would sit in a circle in one of the rooms, and then the staff or the director who was running it would say, okay, get your feelings off.
And you would commence to basically cursing each other out one at a time at the top of your fucking lungs.
Get goddamn back there today! Motherfucker! You goddamn pussy! What are you gonna do? You're a motherfucking chick! Square-footed guy, you son of a bitch! Goddamn high pressure, when you see that fire, you will respect me! You're motherfucking do that! Oh, pussy ass bitch! But if we go back to chief, you motherfucker! You fucking suck!
And that was supposed to be how you dealt with your feelings.
In so-called encounter groups, residents are encouraged to express their hostile feelings. The result is usually a stream of curses and obscenities.
You would yell at the person, swear at them, degrade them.
Cunt,
whore,
needle dick,
fucking slut.
You could say anything you wanted to.
They'd stomp their feet and they'd be going like this.
Frothing at the mouth, like grabbing their pants like this, like rocking back and forth.
Some people's seats would be like popping up off the ground.
Screaming at me, like making eye contact, like calling me a bitch and all this stuff. And sometimes it was like for the dumbest reasons too.
Somebody left their tube of shampoo in the shower because they were coming in after me to use it. I had no idea it was right there. I used the Judy Secret, I did it, and then the guy that went in afterwards, his shampoo was gone. Well, he dropped a slip on me and took me to an encounter group, and he's sitting there screaming at me how he's going to kill me because I took his tube of Judy Secret shampoo.
You know what? I'm sick and tired of your garbage around here. You know what? I gotta deal with your skank.
If you weren't participating in the encounter groups intensely enough, it was you that would be in trouble.
Most of the time when I was in groups, it was a lot of going through the motions and just yelling because I had to. But there was one group in particular where a girl who I thought I was really close to had gone on her first visit with her mother, and she told her that she shouldn't be there because there's girls who were raped by their father and stuff like that there, and she's not like that. And then I was in a group with her, and that was the first time I ever actually yelled and meant it. I was crying so hard I couldn't believe that someone had said something like that, like as if I'm a disease and you are better than me. I can say that at that moment I was glad that something in this world was called an encounter group and I wasn't choking her.
You know, back in the day when I was going through a lot of places being in institutions, there were no encounter groups. We would just simply beat each other's ass on the spot if something like that broke out,
Everything I tried.
After the shouting, there is an attempt to resolve hostilities,
with the ultimate goal of not only having peace, but having a better outcome in your daily interactions.
They taught us that everyone in the world has feelings. And that's all they are, is feelings. And the difference between a positive person and a negative person was how they reacted off of those feelings.
We're talking about attempting suicide by eating 15 pills of antabuse and then going out and having a glass of scotch. We're talking about waking up in the morning and just because you don't have booze, drinking shaving lotion just to get alcohol out of it. Okay, we're talking about going into convulsions and going into seizures and going into blackouts that you almost never came out of.
I was at the point where I was pretty wasted one night. And I went out and I got a butcher knife and, started stabbing myself in my stomach, which partly because I wanted my father to, come and say, it's okay, Diana, you're going to be all right. You're a very sick little girl. We'll take you to the hospital and, sew you up. And I just wanted him to know that he loved me because I felt like he didn't. I felt like nobody did.
You have to make the decision whether or not it's worth it for you to live. You have got to do it for yourself. And I want you to think about the times that you could never sit somebody down and spill your guts out. And I want you to say, I'm lonely and it hurts me. Hold hands and think about that. I mean, let's get in touch with what you are. I'm lonely and it hurts me.
You would think about a feeling that you had that made you sad,
I felt that. Come on, it hurts me.
that you felt bad about.
Think about what goes on inside. I'm lonely and it hurts me. Let's go.
I'm scared. I hate my father. This person raped me.
I'm lonely and it hurts me.
It was trying to go to your most inner child.
Come on. I'm lonely and it hurts me.
The hurt.
I'm lonely and it hurts me.
The wounds just left unidentified.
I'm lonely and it hurts me. Tell us about it. I'm lonely and it hurts me. I'm lonely and it hurts me. I'm lonely and it hurts me. Get it all out. It's okay to cry.
And it was supposedly a way of
cleansing
out your problems.
You are watching Primal Scream Therapy, which is intended to release a youngster's deepest fears and emotions.
I had two primal groups, surrounding my father's death.
Do you remember what you were screaming?
Yeah, why'd you leave me? When I got into high school, I found amphetamines. And then I found crystal speed. And I did a lot of amphetamines and a lot of crystal. And I would drink a lot. Got thrown out of high school and went to night school. And then I got kicked out of night school for truancy. And I had said to my father, I need help. I think I'm going crazy. And he said, well, I would like you to consider going to Elan. Your brother went there and it seems to have done a world of good for him. He said, I'll call you every day to make sure you're doing all right. And 2 days later, I made this phony suicide attempt thinking I'd end up in the plush Valley Hospital in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And instead, I ended up on the psych ward. And my father died the next morning. He dropped dead jogging on a business trip in Chicago. They said the heart attack was so massive he was dead before he hit the pavement. So I felt so guilty about having made that suicide attempt and thinking, well, that probably contributed to my father's heart attack, which killed him. And my mother wanted me to go to Elan, and I'm pretty sure Peter at that point was advocating for me to go there as well. So I went to Elan.
We are in a structured environment where these kids, may not know how to have things organized, don't know how to keep anything on time, how to do something. And this teaches them to live in an environment where there's actually discipline.
Along with their job, every resident had a set of daily responsibilities. Dropping slips was one of them, and then there was the incident book. At Elan, there were 3 cardinal rules: no drugs, no sex, and no violence. Breaking any of the 3 cardinal rules meant severe punishment. But then there were rules for everything else. And this is where the incident book came in.
The incident book was something controlled by a shingle expediter, someone who you could kind of compare to a police lieutenant or captain.
You had to be careful what you said around everybody because people were encouraged to tattle on each other all the time for every little thing.
Students would book each other or hold each other accountable for breaking the rules. They would say to the shingle, I want to book an incident. They'd say on who, for what,
You get booked for goofing,
You could be walking around with a shoelace that's untied.
not doing your chore correctly.
Let too many cigarette butts collect in an ashtray.
Because I was the house fatty, I couldn't sit through a meal without being balked by 10 people for eating too much.
This was my favorite. Stealing a pencil, but stealing a pencil isn't stealing a pencil. Stealing a pencil is like a pencil was on the ground and you picked it up and you didn't make a fucking announcement on the pencil to let everybody know that you were taking the pencil because you didn't want to take those 2 extra steps to raise your hand and make an announcement and find out whose fucking pencil it is before you pocket it. You have now committed a crime in the kingdom of Elan.
The shingle would come up to you if you were booked and say valid or invalid. Your explanation had some weight, but not a whole hell of a lot. You know, the injustice of it was guilty or innocent, you usually got dealt with.
If it's an injustice, deal with it.
Knock! Get out there. Come in.
I was dealt with a lot on a daily basis.
I mean, God, I could knock 20 times a day, 30 times a day.
You say knock, person knocks.
They'd say, who's there? And you'd say, Julie. And they'd say,
come in!
You'd walk in, you close the door behind you, and you'd stand in front of 4 other residents and with your feet shoulder width apart and your hands at your sides.
And they would say, you know why you're standing there?
For stealing a pencil.
Knowing your responsibility! Not to clean the bathroom this morning, man! You should remember next time! Get this fucking you don't have to get to that seminar! You don't have to put everybody's foot way back in the cup and accept everything that goes around here!
In the jargon of Elan, this is a haircut. The theory is that blowing the most trivial incidents out of proportion with angry shouting will lead the supposed offender to take a closer look at himself.
You don't make sure things get done! So I suggest for the next time you should put more quality on it!
You know, and if you stand there and you react at all, like roll your eyes or yeah, right, whatever, it would just get worse and worse and worse.
No.
At Elan, you succeed and survive if you accept the program. If you don't, there are punishments. They're usually called learning experiences.
You had to make a choice when you came into Elan. You could choose to go through the hard way, or you can choose the motherfucker way.
From the hottest fire comes the strongest steel.
But I caught on real quick. I got smart the first day I was there, and a couple of guys came and asked me to come in a room, and they just said, hey, we can do this one way, we can do it another way. And I just went, really? And they go, really? And I said, okay, cool. You know, I just didn't feel like fighting because I intuitively knew I wasn't going to win.
I wasn't buying into their system right away.
My first year in Elan was scrubbing floors and facing corners.
I had almost a general meeting a day for probably 6 months.
So I was on the service crew for 30 days, and then I tried to run away, and I got caught.
I wanted to get kicked out. My first year, that's all I wanted to do. That was my dream. My dream was to get kicked out of Elan.
I had my clothes on all night long in bed, and I'm trying to get the guts to get up and run out the door. And finally, when I did, I ran right into the nightmare.
But had I known how hard people had tried for the past 20-something years prior to me getting there to get kicked out, and the things that they had tried and they had never gotten kicked out, I would probably have conformed sooner.
Many Elan residents have tried to escape, but they've all failed.
I split from Elan probably about 6 or 7 times. Made it out of there, out of the state of Maine every time, as far as California.
Anybody who tried to run away was usually caught.
When they've managed to get off the grounds, trackers are sent out after them.
They send student trackers after you.
Next thing I know, I get jumped somewhere, and next thing I know, I'm back.
You were brought back, and you were basically therapeutically killed. And you often had security precautions put on you that were unprecedented for any time in your stay.
When they caught this 15-year-old boy, he was put in a rabbit suit and leg shackles.
After I ran away, I already had no fucking shoelaces or anything anyway. So they got me down to a sandalelli, so I can only wear Can only wear sandals, pocket LE, pockets out. 15-foot spread from windows and doors. A strength and a high strength. They gotta be with me at all times. And I'm in a pod, which is each tile is like a foot by 1 by 1, all right? So I got 9. That was me. That was me for 9 fucking months. That's my pen. That's where I live. It's taped. Taped, outlined. If I went out of it, Chief!
What does it do? Okay, it humiliates him and it restricts his movement. He's run away from here 4 times. Okay? He's run away from every place he's been before at least 17 or 18 times.
This boy's been in and out of juvenile detention centers for years and faced charges of breaking and entering and assault. For him, it was either Elan or jail.
So I was shot down for the next 30 days, and I was a worker for the next 30 days, and then they transferred me to Waterford. I met the best friend I've ever had in my life, a guy named Scott Kitchen, and he had a sign. And I remember exactly what his sign said. I walked in and I looked over, and the whole room had to be quiet because he just walked in and he said, "I'm Scott, the hospital tot. I like to make people laugh a lot. I find it hard to see that I have guilt and it's killing me."
Residents are made to wear signs for days, sometimes weeks, bluntly spelling out their problems and failures.
You would have to stand up every morning at morning meeting and read your sign.
Hickory dickory dock, responsible I am not. I fell asleep like a little sheep, ask me why I'm a dummy.
And the house would have to confront you on your sign.
Why are you a dummy? Because I fell asleep on night duty.
It was a big piece of white poster board, and Elan was so nice that they would let you make your own sign. You could even put silly flowers and dogs and cats on it.
I'm a lunatic. I totally lose control when things don't go my way. That's why I've been in and out of hospitals.
Please confront me as to why I have so little self-control that I've become a blob.
Please ask me why I continue to goof.
I'm a disgusting little coward.
If I continue to take everything as a joke, I'm gonna end up dead.
All I have in the future to look forward to is getting raped in prison.
I got a sign as a result of the fact that I broke cardinal rules. I was kind of flirting with one of the guys from Elan 3 in classes. The lights had gone out during school, and we held hands for probably about 5 seconds. And they kept telling me that I had guilt, and I had no clue what they were talking about.
Guilt was basically any behavior you engaged in contrary to Elan policy that was not found out, that you carried with you.
Elan was very big on making you feel guilty.
Every couple of weeks, they would say, "Have you copped to your guilt? When was the last time you copped to your guilt?" And you'd write it out on a piece of paper, what you did.
I couldn't figure out if somebody had seen me in the dark touch hands with this other guy for 5 seconds. So I actually copped to that as my guilt.
2 new residents talking to each other without a strength being aware of the conversation, might be a relatively minor form of guilt. Kissing someone on the back stairs, you're getting a general meeting.
So I got shut down, I got a general meeting, and I got a sign about ask me why I'm a whore, because I held hands with somebody for about 5 seconds.
I remember this poor girl named Jennifer. She liked a kid, and they put a whore costume on her.
Oh, costumes.
Every morning she had to get up in front of the whole house, dance around and strut like she was a whore, and sing this song.
How do you tell somebody that had been sexually abused since they were 4 years old that they're a whore?
They call me Flamin' Jenny 'cause I'm hot for many. I'm the hottest baby in the house. And when it comes to loving, I'm the human oven. I'm the hottest baby in the house.
I think I was oversexed because I had been abused. So I was sexually provocative. I was sexually abused when I was younger by someone close to my family, and it had gone on for a very long time, period of 8 years, and just kind of the backup of dealing with that, problems in school. I had entrusted to a friend that I was being sexually abused. And that friend got mad at me and decided to spread it around the school. So I was known in junior high as like the girl who fucked this person. I think that I just wanted out. I just wanted everything to be quiet.
Yeah, say it to them right now. Yeah, you better start being honest around here. Yeah, there's nobody around here. Yeah.
They used to put people in some humiliating costumes. Me and this girl were dressed up as the Bobbsey twins. Our hair was put up in pigtails. We were very immature and we used to act up, and they wanted to humiliate us. The costume would always suit the person who was put into it.
You know, my subject was terrible with the math. If you didn't do well in it, they make you wear this big dunce cap.
If their behavior is deemed infantile, they're made to wear diapers over their clothes and to carry rattles.
I don't know how I was being a baby, but I guess I was. You know, I had the bonnet and the big rattle.
Denise Hubbard, she had syphilis. And they made her wear tampons in her hair. I thought that was downright disgusting.
Why would they do that?
Because she had syphilis. That was their way of treating her.
Take my buddy Kevin Hicks, for instance.
Roland.
He pulled a couple stunts, and they put a costume on him.
Oh, I was out of control. And so I was shot down. I was in Parsons Field. We had a morning meeting. And I said, I think that we should get a house dog. Elan 3 has a beautiful golden retriever. And wouldn't it be nice if we could get a dog, for the house? Next thing I knew, I was getting a general meeting for suggesting that we should have a house dog. And it was determined that I should be the house dog. And I was not allowed to speak. I was only allowed to bark once for yes, bark twice for no. I had to walk around on fours. For my dinner, I was given a dog dish. Plus, I had to do tricks. They would teach me tricks, and I'd have to do these tricks on command.
Jennifer was mummified. They wrapped this like white bandage tape all around her head, leaving an opening for her nose so that she could breathe. And then a leash was put around her neck so that she couldn't run off on her PO, personal overseer. I drew a picture of that among a lot of other pictures. It was tough being there as a kid. My best memories, it seems, were when I was acting up with somebody else. Just being silly, goofing on the program, or making silly wisecracks, running around the room. To my mind, it was merely playing. But to the directors, it was anarchy, and we had to be dealt with swiftly and forcefully.
Joe, you make no bones about it. There is corporal punishment here at Elan. Tell us about it. What are the stages it comes in? Who's it administered by?
Well, it's administered by the kids, first of all. Corporal, it's a harsh term.
Do you remember Kim Freehill?
Kim was from a wealthy family in Long Island. After she had only been there a month, she had lice. And I think that episode really hit her hard. All the females, we had to wash all our clothes, put the pillows in plastic bags, and everybody had to get quelled again. And I'm sure it was mortifying for her. And after that, she just started kind of unraveling. So then they gave her GM because she was starting to act a little nuts, like mental patient issues. And during that GM, she just let go and peed on the floor. So they took her and threw her in a cold shower with all her clothes on, and then brought her back dripping wet to stand in front of the house again. But she wasn't cooperating because she was in the middle of a nervous breakdown. So they spanked her.
That's one resident spanking another resident, and it's done with a ping pong paddle.
For the first 2 years that I was there, they would spank with a clipboard.
Clipboards. hands, anything, you know.
Usually a person won't get spanked more than once or twice.
Usually when they use a paddle, they may have 4 or 5 people spank a person like 3 to 5 times each.
They'd have the students lined up, 5 or 6 of them, and they would each have to take a turn at paddling the wrongdoer.
So she was being spanked repeatedly in wet pants.
Well, when they spanked me, I mean, they didn't have to spank me, so I turned black and blue. Simple as that. I mean, that was just one time after another. I was so sore I couldn't sit down.
Kim had scabs that had to be 3/4 of an inch thick on her rear from being paddled.
Oh, yes, it was painful. I had to learn fast to hold back my tears because I thought, I'm not going to give them that. I won't look weak in front of them. Better to look angry. You know, I would cop an attitude instead. Even if that got me in more trouble, it was better than giving them my tears.
They thought I needed it because I supposedly was a terribly big baby.
If you're going to act like a baby, you should be treated like a baby.
So after hours and hours of this GM, which was horrific GM, she was like just gone, just catatonic.
There's no federal regulation on these places, and the state regulations are very weak. Nail salons are more regulated than guys who come and kidnap your kid at 2 a.m.
The treatment we saw called for isolation.
And that they're more regulated than facilities that lock up kids and are allowed to physically punish them.
They couldn't talk to each other.
We have had a completely dysfunctional Congress for a long time now, and there has been regulation that has passed the House twice, but has never really gone anywhere. So, you know, the chances of getting regulation through this Congress are pretty low.
I tried to kill myself there. My biggest punishment was they put me in a corner. See, I love to talk. I really don't have a problem talking. So I had to sit in the corner and, you know, everybody's doing whatever they got to do all around me. This is in waterfront. I never forget it because I got the scar right here on my finger. I had a piece of chicken and I made an X on my finger. I was trying to kill myself.
I was in the corner only a few times. Each stay was between 3 to 5 days, which I understand is not an extremely long time.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Like when you're a child and mom and dad says, go sit and stand in the corner, you go stand in the corner, face against the wall, and you stand and you stand and you stand until you cannot stand. And then you sit.
But it was worse than that. For sure. It's not just like facing, it's not like 5-minute fucking like turn around. Like you were fucking in there forever. Didn't you talk about Donovan earlier? Dude, they shut him away for like, I think like 4 months straight one time.
I've seen people that had been in the corner for 6 months.
Oh my God. I literally would stare at a spot on the wall until it would just like fuzz out of me.
You could count the holes in the wall, the nooks and crannies, the dots on the curtain.
You were eating, standing there. You were sleeping in the corner. They would bring a mattress. You would sleep right there.
As soon as the sun came out, you go back and face the corner.
You're going to do that for week after week after week until you've been good for days, and then they decide they want to let you out.
Yo, I'd rather take an ass whooping than sit there. That is just my opinion because, I mean, wow, that's torture.
And then the poor person that had to sit there and watch you was another kid, which was like your support person. And that was the only person you were allowed to talk to.
I had this imaginary friend when I was in the corner too. Her name was Emily. She was a colonial girl, a few years younger than me. But even her presence didn't help when people were allowed to come up and swear at me. They were given open swearing privileges directed at Mary O'Brien. Anybody who wanted could come up to me while I was in the corner and cuss me out, tell me how ugly, stupid, and fat I was, and how I was a loser, and, you know, how I made them sick. It was so humiliating that I used to make her go away while they were doing that. Because I didn't want her to hear me being called all those names.
Duck in a Raincoat is full of scandal. News Center's Sharon Randall tells us about it.
The book begins in Port Chester, New York, where Richie grew up, and takes the reader down the sometimes bumpy road of Richie's life. The opening of Elan, his lucrative drug treatment center, the mysterious fire that destroyed the clubhouse at Scarborough Downs, a failed run for the 1986 Democratic nomination for governor, and of course, the famous lawsuit against Key Bank.
You know, when you first meet Joe, and you're a street kid like me, and let's make no mistake, I grew up on the street. I hung out in Providence, I hung out in Cranston, and it was, anyway, there were a lot of Italians, yada, yada, yada. So Joe, there's no mistaking who he is and what he is.
He was cool, he was confident.
He always had a lot of money.
He had a Rolls Royce.
He was eccentric.
He had a mink coat.
He was extremely grandiose.
If he walked in the room, you'd want to stand up to greet him.
He was the man.
He ruled everything.
And so he was Italian.
Key Bank had cut off Richie's line of credit because of rumors he had ties to organized crime. Richie sued, and a federal jury awarded him $15 million.
Oh, in my simplicity, I looked up to that.
Joe was my idol. I wanted to be like Joe.
And he bought into me, and I bought into him. You know, like he did with a lot of other people. Kind of took me under his wing, buys you a lot of stuff. He bought me all my clothes. He bought me my first car. For Christ's sake, he owned the house I lived in. So I was bought and paid for pretty much.
He got his major judgment based on the fact that his civil rights were violated. Yet throughout the book, there are accounts of many times that other people's civil rights were violated by his treatment center for troubled adolescents.
And that's part of the story that Curly contends the media missed.
You'd want to please him, basically for your own survival.
He was mean.
He was paranoid.
You know, he'd make you feel like dirt.
He was very concerned about his own image and his importance. If you threatened his power, he could be quite unfair with the retaliation.
If he wants to act like a criminal, he'll be treated like a criminal. It's that basic.
I had no really dealings of him. Then a few times he ran them general meetings. And when he ran a general meeting, they stomped the shit out of you. You got the worst of the worst.
Duck in a Raincoat is packed with personal accounts of brutality and intimidation at Elan, Richie's drug treatment center for young people in Poland Springs. But a 1971 state investigation found no evidence to support such claims.
If Joe is so bad and so dirty, why hasn't anybody been able to make anything stick to him?
Because he's very good at what he does.
What he does, according to Curly, is cover his tracks and dupe the media.
He has money, which certainly makes people credible in the United States of America. But, you know, how he made that money, you know, is some of the things that are questioned in this book.
It sounds like the founder of Elan was a sociopath. And there's evidence that sociopaths rise in these places very easily. There was a study done of using the Synanon kind of method on sociopaths, and they found that it made them worse. Because basically it told them that hurting people, which they enjoy doing, is good. So it basically trained people to be better sociopaths, which is kind of scary when you think about the kids that are sent to these places. And Elan was definitely among the worst that I have heard of. I think the difference is the level of violence. Elan explicitly used the ring.
We have the ring, okay, which everybody misinterprets. It's not a boxing ring, it's a ring of human people.
Elan's boxing ring was used as a last resort therapeutic tool. I once heard a staff member refer to it as an exercise in futility, pretty much to prove that violence will get you nowhere.
The ring was used for bullies.
If you went in the ring, it's because you physically threatened somebody.
Any kind of violent action resulted in the ring.
It occurs within a general meeting. They have, let's say, 10 students, 15 students form a circle.
You would literally form a human circle around someone.
And the bully bully is introduced as what he is. In this corner is the bully who's trying to turn this facility into a detention center.
I got put in the boxing ring a number of times.
I was in a ring for the good, fighting the perpetrator.
And in this corner is the house champion who's going to show him why it can't be done.
They would put you in the boxing ring with somebody who was sure to kick your ass.
You're supposed to be fighting for the house, truth, justice, the Elan way. You put a pair of gloves on, and the other person put a pair of gloves on.
The director goes, ding.
It made the best man win.
And you never won.
We never allowed the bully to win.
You might win 1 or 2 rounds.
No, I didn't even try. I just went down like this.
You might beat this person, and you might beat that person, but they keep coming. They keep coming. They keep sending a fresh person.
And when that person got tired, they would send somebody else in.
You were boxing 6, 7 fresh people.
So, like, if you actually fought, you'd really get beat up.
Yeah, well, it's sort of, you could say, a kill situation.
Violence is ultimately futile, you know, in the real world. Even if you do win a fight, there's always someone bigger than you. There's always a cop there to arrest you for assault. You know, no good is really going to come of being violent.
I'd always heard before I had seen one that the only people who get rings are those who actually are violent and lash out at others. But I saw people get rings who did nothing other than sit in the corner and refuse to respond. And they used the ring almost as if to try to shock them into responding, to wake them up.
I was an expediter, and I was stationed at the kitchen door, POing the shot downs who were washing dishes and scrubbing the floor. And one resident put on his coat to take the garbage out, and I forgot he went out there and shut the door behind him, and he ran away. So I was shot down for that. And for me, I felt terribly guilty, because if I had been doing my job, he wouldn't have run away and come back and be brutalized, beaten, brutalized.
Who is this?
This is Michael Skakel.
Did you want anyone in Elan to know you were related to the Kennedys? Absolutely not.
They gave him a general meeting. He was being confronted as to whether he murdered some girl, and he kept saying, no, no, no. He was put in the ring. They broke his nose, and he kept saying, no, 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 and then would get beat again until he submitted and said he didn't know if he had done it or not.
Just to say this first, so much stuff that you could never imagine, that you couldn't line it up in your brain, happened so fast.
Everybody was genuinely scared of what the next 10 minutes would bring.
You know, you can go from the electric sauce to the rings, to the spanking, to the GMs where they're slamming you up against the wall, and then the haircuts.
You never knew who it was going to happen to. It could be you.
And it was going to happen to you. There was no way to prevent it. You could be as good as possible, and then they would deal with you for being a goody two-shoes.
Just constant violence is the way I look back on it.
General fucking meeting!
You can't get no lower than watching a person, snot's coming out of their nose.
Stand right there!
People were yelled at right out in the open, right where they stood.
They're throwing up.
70% of my time I was being yelled at.
They're pissing shit out of stuff.
You were basically therapeutically killed.
They're bleeding from the mouth.
It was a fucking nightmare.
Then you take the person, they throw that stinking, that nasty ass electric sauce on them.
They put cigarette butts in it, leftover
God
food.
almighty, I watched people go into the toilet one time and pull out water from the toilet.
And they roll them around in there.
They would dump my food on me.
Pick the person up.
Thrown at me.
Slam them up against the wall.
Throw somebody against one wall.
And they would just kick your ass.
Run over and slam them against this wall.
Blood everywhere.
All the while screaming at them.
And the only sound that you
And then
could
they
hear
slam them
was
against
the
this
person
wall.
screaming for his life.
I need some fucking Thor
crazy.
It's insanity.
Everybody runs up there.
Scream and swear at you.
I'm 16 years old. I have to deal with fucking mental patients.
Taking light bulbs and cutting themselves
Kids
hundreds
drinking
of times.
fucking bleach to get fucked up so they can get out of here.
Students can't escape here.
They would just break you down.
Throw you back in that same shit all over
You
again.
would sit in the corner. You would stand in the
Your
corner.
clothes ripping off.
And they'll have general meetings where you get spit on every day.
Slam you against the
Now,
wall.
that is robbing him of his dignity.
And that's all you would do.
And robbing him of his freedom.
And you repeat it a couple times.
Then yes, I'm guilty.
You give.
I'm gonna hurt anybody that wants me.
You quit.
You broke me. You stop.
You still think it's worth it?
There was some real life, like, bullshit and turmoil. There's no way that can get, like, sugar-coated at all. Like, that is... It wasn't every day. It was, like, 3/4 of the fucking existence there was outrageousness and, like... 15-year-olds should not be hog tying and like zip tying 17-year-old kids. Anybody could know that. Like Dominic should not have had to fucking break fucking 2 people's arms to get attention. You know what I mean? Like throwing chairs into walls and shit. Like, and if you are a normal person with enough self-control, I remember one thing I always did. I was like, I will not act out. I will not do that because as bad as this sucks and as bad as it is, whatever, I was like, these kids are just doing their fucking job because they want to get out of here.
While I was making this film, a lot of people asked me, did Elan help me? And I don't really have an answer to that question. Maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm sitting here in front of this camera. What I do know, though, is that amongst all the day-to-day chaos and the day-to-day grind, there were some truly caring people there that really just wanted to see the best for us.
I thought you were a shy kid, and I thought that you weren't willing, you expect the world to change around you. And you really didn't like anything. You weren't into anything. You were sad. And you really didn't like yourself. And I think that you were so lonely that you probably would have committed suicide if you didn't get some help.
I was lonely. I was depressed. I was drinking a bottle of cough syrup probably every day to get high. I didn't really want to be in reality. Because the reality was that my parents were getting divorced. College was on its way. Life was changing a lot, and I didn't really want to deal with all that. I didn't grow up in a situation where my parents put responsibility on me. And in a way, Elan taught me a lot of the things I didn't let my parents teach me. Self-discipline, honesty, integrity, getting in touch with your feelings. I always just blocked them out.
But I thought that you were nice. And I thought that we'll figure something out. We'll find something that he enjoys, and then we'll build on that. What'd you think of me?
I thought she was kidding when she said her name was Missy E. I thought she was like making a joke about Missy Elliott. But she was really funny. I thought I would like her, and I did.
What did George Bush get on his SATs? Rule. I was honest and funny, and I was straightforward. I call it like I see it. Where you going, Ben?
This bathroom's always a mess. I want to see hands. All right.
Did you hear me ask you a question, Ben?
Huh?
Did you hear me ask you a question?
Yeah, so I gotta talk to Ross. The kitchen crew didn't save any.
What'd you ask me?
The kitchen crew didn't save
Do you have to use the bathroom? Is that what you said?
No.
Then find a seat. Why don't you grab a jug? Okay. I'm not really afraid. That's why I'm doing this interview. I really am not afraid. I do care. That's why I stayed there for 20 years. I was investing, and I would bring it. And I would bring individual attention. I paid attention. My technique is, if you talk to me, then I listened. If you bothered to write something, I read it. And then if I found something that we had in common, I would sit there and bring it up. So we could relate. And then maybe develop some trust. So at some point, whether it would be, you tell me one of your biggest secrets that you never wanted to tell anybody.
Were you ever able to confront your dad about what he did?
At the end, when they realized that my mom had caught on that I had already graduated high school and that I wasn't supposed to be there anymore, she was gonna pull me out. And that's when I was like, listen, this is gonna be my last chance to speak to him with people here to help me out if, this doesn't go well. And so they gave me the phone call, and Missy came with me, and I called him. He's from Chile, and I called him there. I just asked him why. I just asked him why he lied about me, because he told my mother that I was a drug addict and I was a liar and that I was just making things up. And he was just like, why would you say that about me? Like, you know how much I love you. Why would I raped you? He wouldn't say it out loud. He would just spell it out. It was very strange. And he just pretended to be innocent like he always did. And it was just, at that point, I just realized, I was like, listen, have a good life. And I just hung up, and I've never spoken to him or seen him since.
How does that feel?
Great. That I was able to walk out of there not bawling my eyes out like he had hurt me. It was over, and I felt better about it.
I didn't enjoy some of the stuff there that went on. As far as rings and general meetings, they were never fun. You know what I'm saying? But I think putting things in labels like wrong, right, good, and bad is unfair. Yeah, the ring was wrong, but I was always up to run a group. Some of the people, all those people, their shout-outs for how horrible, they got to release a lot of pain too, you know what I mean, in those rooms with a trusted group dealing with really private issues. That's something many kids never got to do, and many people will never get to do. And so I think that some of it was so brilliant, it was ridiculous.
My first director didn't believe in the ring, spankings, costumes. His thing was, if it got to a point, he brought you up to his office, he sat you down. You could talk for an hour, or you could go into his office at 7 o'clock at night and not get out of there until 7 o'clock in the morning.
So he talked to you?
Oh, Mr. Friedman talked to you, but you wanted to listen.
About 2 weeks before I left, I was in a special group with my sister, who was in Elan 7. And my sister told me that she thought I'd be successful in the outside world. And I said, well, successful how? Go through a hard time, maybe smoke some pot and come out of it. And I got asked by Kate Hawkins, the social worker there, is that an option? And I didn't say anything. So clearly it was an option for me to go out there and smoke a little pot and come out of it. And she said to me, Pete, you better not pick up a joint out there. Some people can handle it, you can't. I'd like to also remind you that alcoholism is a progressive disease. You pick up where you left off. Now, I hadn't heard that since AA meetings about 3 years earlier. So when I heard that, it just brought me back, and I was like, okay, that option's off the table. And I've been sober since the day I left. God willing, I'll have 21 years in October.
Elan diploma. In recognition of the growth that she has achieved.
There's no doubt that Elan had a role in changing a lot of people's lives for the better. It would be unfair for me to say it didn't. But in the end, when you look at the bigger picture, the damage that Elan caused far outweighs the good.
Elan claims its graduates are now leading happy, productive lives, that they're staying in school, going to college and working. The drug use is way down, and criminal involvement cut by more than half.
It claims that 2/3 of all its former residents are now leading productive lives. That figure has not been scientifically verified.
But parents of some former residents dispute these claims. When Rhode Island parents complained, the state investigated and found that of 117 former Elan residents from that state, 70 had been arrested, and that one is serving a life sentence for murder in South Carolina.
There's absolutely no evidence that this does anything other than produce post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and in some cases, a brief period of compliance. A lot of people will tell you, it worked for me. I can't say that 12-step program saved my life because that's what happened to help when I ended up getting into recovery. I mean, I can say that, but the reality is that I don't know that. That's an anecdote. And even if it's my anecdote and I believe it very strongly, it's still an anecdote. And if we're going to say that addiction and mental illnesses are diseases, then we have to have medical standards of evidence. And by the medical standards of evidence, there is no data that suggests that this helps people. And there are lots of things suggesting that it does help.
I got out right when my class was graduating. So it was like being a rock star for like a month, because like you're out, you hit every grad party, and you got out of like, people were like, we thought you were dead, we thought you were in jail, we thought you were whatever. It's just like this incredible high for like a month and a half, and then it's just like, boom. Because then you got to start to figure out how to do things like an adult, or what like the real world is, and everything like that. And then you get up there, and I'm like, oh fuck, dude, I don't have a clue what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I was doing with anything. I started going to school. I didn't know a goddamn thing. I don't know a goddamn thing. I don't know how to fucking sit in a real class, real homework, real work, real everything. I'm like, I don't know a fucking clue, dude. I didn't care. Started seeing one of my best friends when I came home from like childhood. He was all fucked up when I got back. He was really bad with oxys. And I remember I never understood it, because I never did anything other than really drink or smoke, so I don't understand what shit was. And he was just like, go on and try it. Did that, and then I've been on like an off and on, like, I've been out like 5 years. I've been on an off and on 5-year drug bender. I'm at rock right now. I'm at rock. You got me at a great time.
I went basically from Elan to college, which was totally fucked up for me because I had no social skills. The education was minimal, and basically when I went to school, all I wanted to do was do everything that I wasn't allowed to do at all. I partied, I sold drugs, I did drugs, and went to concerts, and I did everything that I felt I lost out on when I was a teenager. I made up for like tenfold when I left Elan. And then I got into heroin, and I loved it. I ended up doing it for like 20 years. It was like the love affair just like started, and it was like an everyday, every time I could get anything. And then that started me off stripping because I realized how easy the money was. So that's what I did for 10 years probably. And I felt guilty about things that I was doing, but the fact that I felt guilty about it didn't stop me from doing them. It just made me more miserable. And it just made me want to get high more. It made me want to do whatever I could do to get away from like the way that I was made to feel about myself while I was there. Because I was really made to feel like I was like the biggest piece of shit on the face of the earth, and I was always just going to be good for nothing. And that was really like what Elan instilled about me to myself.
I was into some very dangerous stuff, and there is a distinct possibility that if I didn't go to Elan, I could have died. There's also the possibility that I could have straightened myself out. I don't know. But the way that Elan had taught me how to live my life worked. You know, I didn't act off my feelings. I didn't let my feelings get to me. I went to college. I met my wife. I had a family. But all of a sudden, I got to be about 33 years old, which was maybe 15 years after I had left Elan, and all of a sudden, I found myself, I couldn't deal with anything. Something had changed inside me that my feelings totally overtook me. I had missed my childhood, and that bothered me because I knew I could never get it back. By the time I was 36, I was shooting 25 bags a day of heroin.
I think Elan really fucked up my life. I hear the negative screaming at me in my head frequently, and especially when I'm down or I'm feeling insecure about, instead of giving myself a pep talk, those voices come in my head. I can't say what would have happened had I not gone there, and maybe I have a little bit of mental illness besides. I think that's why most people end up there. They're acting out in some way. But it really fucked me up.
One of the reasons that Elan and these emotional growth boarding school kind of places caught on with parents is a lot of parents wanted to avoid psychiatric labels and wanted to avoid medications. And so they kind of figured, if I send my kid to a place for bad kids, it's better than sending them to a place for sick kids. And they didn't realize kind of how weird that actually is. These places sort of show that there's still an enormous stigma on mental illness and addiction, and that we see teenagers as diseased just for being teenagers.
After Elan, I was sent to Perkins School for the Blind, which to me felt exactly like leaving hell and going up to heaven. I have a condition known as coloboma. My retinas and my irises didn't form all the way at birth. So I'm like at the line between legally blind and visually impaired. It not only was the campus so beautiful, like I'd never seen before, but the attitude there among people was so much different. You know, people were more patient and understanding. You didn't have people screaming at each other. See, I was already messed up when I went to Elan. So Elan messed me up further. You know, I felt bad enough about myself as it was, but they made me feel even worse about myself. I left there feeling like this big. I've been in counseling for years. I go to the Providence Mental Health Center. I still draw pictures of people that I like, and I make dolls of them. I was born with a vivid imagination, you know? It does help me. They were trying to take away my fantasy world and everything connected with it, but they didn't have anything better to offer me. So why would I have given it up?
When I left Elan, I did not leave on good terms. My parents would not allow me to come home because I didn't graduate. And I was hitchhiking around and went to some Dead shows, but I was homeless for a couple of years. Actually, just recently, I had access to my psychiatrist's recommendation to send me to Elan. And the recommendation specifically stated that I needed a warm psychotherapeutic environment that was structured, and that anything outside of this would probably lead to me killing myself. You know, I didn't have a great life. I was sexually abused. I was physically abused. I actually was recently diagnosed with PTSD. I suffer from severe anxiety. I have night terrors. And most of the time I'm dreaming about Elan. My husband wakes me up a lot saying that I was screaming, and I truly think that if it wasn't for my husband's patience and love and understanding, that I really think that doctor's report probably would be true. I probably would have killed myself by now.
I'm intelligent enough and I've seen enough in the world to know that once you go to a needle, the only thing after that is death. So I'm sitting there and I've got my bags lined up and I'm ready to do my ritual, because it's very ritualistic, you know, to prepare your stuff and get everything set up. And it's almost, the process is almost part of the whole addiction. But I'm thinking to myself, Kitty, you know better than this. I threw away so many opportunities, you know, a college education, a chance to start over. I didn't know how to handle being social in a normal, functional way, because all I knew about being social was what I had learned through Elan. So I struggle. My cousin takes care of me because I can't even go to the grocery store without worrying about being caught in a loud place or in a situation that I'm around a lot of people. My first instinct is to shrink down. I never had panic. I never had anxiety before Elan. You know, I didn't understand what a panic attack was until I got there. And now I still have them 20 years later. But I know for a fact that when I'm done shooting up this syringe full of brown shit, that I'm going to feel real nice.
When I escaped Elan, I did it third time successful. They let me out of the house. They made me go scrub a dumpster. And I popped out of the dumpster, ran like hell. So I went into the woods where I met a guy named Sticks, who was an old shell-shocked Vietnam veteran. And he lived out in the woods, and everything he made was built out of sticks and stones. I guess that's how he got his name Sticks. Anyway, he taught me the art of living outside. So I got pretty good at it, you know, and for a little over a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, and I never came out of the woods, you know. I just lived in the woods all that time. And I guess it turned out to be a good thing because all that, I ended up really learning the art of survival, and now that's what I do up north is I teach wilderness survival. So to me, it was quite the learning experience, and I've learned many things since then because I've just constantly been on the run. Yeah, Elan being the last place I ran from.
One of the times I was on the run, we stole this kid's mother's car. When I came back, the sheriff's in the house saying, "You're fucking leaving." And, there you go, straight to jail. And ended up being sentenced to 2 years, which sucked. But, I learned my lesson that, I wasn't doing that again. Because as a juvenile, I did all kinds of stupid, retarded, ridiculous shit. Once they put me in jail, I realized that I like to go to the refrigerator and get a Coke when I want, like pussy. There was a pussy in jail. And then nobody's chasing me anymore. Now I'm 18. Nobody's trying to tell me what to do. So once people stopped trying to tell me what to do, I didn't have anywhere to go. It was on me, So once they stopped chasing, I didn't have to run anymore.
I was there to be punished. I was there to do 5 years. When my 5 years was up, I was gone. Elan didn't hurt me with words and things like that. Those have no bearing on my life. Because as far as I was concerned, I had no home. I was already being abused. I was already in the street. You wasn't hurting me because I couldn't make a phone call. Had nobody call. They didn't hurt me because Christmas I didn't get no present. Had nobody give me a present anyway. I had no one to say Merry Christmas to anyways. So it didn't hurt me along those lines. It caught me other ways. It caught me because I got no education. I didn't learn anything along those lines. It didn't prepare me for the day when I turned 18 and they sent me to Elan School up in New York. I was in a school, I couldn't read the books. What was I going to do? And I started drinking. I got arrested a couple times. They sent me to honor court. But then next thing you know, I started committing assaults. I started robbing people. You do what you have to do to make it. My stomach growled. I see somebody walk down the street. You do what you got to do. That's dinner. It's nothing to be proud of or anything like that. A grown-ass man has to rob somebody just to, to eat. But that's what I did.
I'm glad I worked at Elan. I'm glad I met you all. It's like you were my children. But I'm not happy with, I'm sad that other people didn't get what everybody else could have gotten or whatever else. And I'm sad if they felt like they were abused or whatever else for them. But I'm still going to go to sleep tonight.
I can't remember exactly how I found out about Elan. I probably read an article about the Michael Skakel case.
Throughout the 80s and 90s, Elan had gone through many changes due to ongoing pressures from social services and modern-age views on mental health treatment. Many of the humiliation tactics, such as costumes and spankings, were dropped. By 2001, Elan no longer used the ring. However, it really wasn't until the Michael Skakel trial that Elan's violent past came back to haunt it.
I got to do an op-ed for the New York Times a few years ago, and I called up the New York State Department of Education and was horrified to discover that they were sending some learning disabled kids to Elan. The state went in and did an investigation, and that's when New York said, we're not sending any more kids. What was interesting about that was Maine had been doing investigations for years and never finding anything. New York, in its first investigation, found kids restraining other kids, sleep deprivation, attack therapy. They found all kinds of bad stuff. Why? Because Maine always announced when it was coming in advance, and New York just went in. And I think it's pathetic that the state of Maine, for decades, announced when it was going to investigate a place that was known to be abusing children.
However, in the end, it was a greater force that brought about the end of Elan's 40-year reign.
Elan wasn't closed because of laws or because it broke any specific state regulation or, violated any codes. They were closed because they were hitting the wallet. The internet closed Elan down.
In the beginning, I was like, I'll just be me.
But people started coming out of nowhere and sending me death threats. And these people may just have a vendetta against, oh, that's the guy who closed it? That's the guy who made us go bankrupt? So when I started my crusade against Elan, it was maybe 10 years after I got out. And I just thought, well, hey, I'll just make a blog about it. But at the time, that really wasn't enough. I went on this website that my friend showed me. He said, check out this website, it's called Reddit. And I made a post, and I already had a long bullet point list. I was very excited, I hit submit. And let me tell you, it went totally viral. It had like 5,000 upvotes. It was on the front page. It had thousands of comments. I mean, maybe 10, 15,000 comments. I can also remember very vividly the first comment, and it was some guy who wrote, you know, I didn't believe this when I first read it, but then I went on Google and I typed in the Elan School, and I can't believe what I'm reading. And that was it. I mean, once this Reddit community got a hold of it, which is like hundreds of thousands of people, it just spread like a virus. It went all over the internet.
We had all said to each other on many, many occasions as residents in the house, if we could all get together and make somebody listen to us. But we didn't have social networking. We didn't have emails. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have all these things.
But now with the internet and parents who are considering sending their kids there, they're going online and Googling Elan and seeing all these former residents who have nothing good to say about it, or most of them don't have anything good to say about the place.
And that was it. That was it for Elan. And a lot of other alumni helped me.
People insisted on being heard, and people wanted their story told, and people wanted
Is the truth.
a sense of justice.
So in effect, we shut them down.
But again, I wish it had happened years sooner.
So looking back, would you have left Elan when you had the chance?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, with what I know now, yeah, I would have ran as far as I could.
The people who have been to Elan have been through a very personal war. They, by and large, are truly some of the boldest individuals you will ever meet.
Going through hell and getting spat back out will definitely teach you some shit. You know, the way I look at it, and anything that didn't fucking kill you makes you stronger.
You know, as the name you have now, the last stop, you know, minus jail, it really kind of was the last stop for me. I mean, they wanted to force change. Sometimes change isn't easy.
And to this day, I believe Elan was the best and worst thing that happened to me.
This is a book that I published. It did help me a lot writing about all the things that happened, getting it off my chest. And I designed the picture for the front cover. It's like an institutional setting with me sitting there daydreaming about a man who I wished was my father. That was the way I sometimes was amid the chaos, you know, sitting there with the sketchbook and the crayons. And then on other occasions, I was a part of the chaos.
I grew up, I wanted to be a thug. I wanted to be a gangster, you know, because that's all I knew. But then I might watch TV. You know, I watch the Hallmark Channel. I want to cry. Be like, wow, this is the perfect family. What the fuck happened to me? I wish I had that, you know, but it's not going to happen.
I've definitely spoken to my family about Elan on a smaller scale, though, with my family, because a lot of them wouldn't understand exactly why I got sent there to begin with. They don't know about my father and like the stuff that he had done to me, so they wouldn't really get why it all happened. But with my friends, I feel very open about talking about everything with Elan because we have something to talk about. We can all like relate on such specific things. It's fun and it's funny. But I would say the relationship that I formed with Jessica, I would say the same as some of like the best friends I've had since childhood.
I still think about Elan. I think about the friends I had there, if they're still around or not. I know most of them ain't.
It kills me because I know that there's other kids. I just know that there's other kids that left out of there and felt the same way I did. And they didn't get a chance to find out what I know now. You know, I don't know why I was spared. I don't know why I'm still alive today. Like, by all means, I should not even be sitting here, you know. And I just know, like, so many kids kill themselves and died of overdoses. And I don't care. Like, we have problems, but, like, no, we were kids. You know what I mean? And they took everything. They took everything away from you.
People at Elan 6, I would like to say, I'm sorry if I hurt them. I was doing what I was told. I was doing what I felt I had to do to get out of there. It was not a personal thing against them. If I hurt somebody, I'm sorry. And I hope that they can find it in their heart to forgive me.
Well, I'm hoping that there will not be any more troubled teen industry. There's always been this sort of thread since Sparta where, you know, we can make tough people by putting them through tough things. But that doesn't mean that we should traumatize people.
I think that everybody wants to be heard, especially teenagers. But they also need to hear.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
That's probably all I'd have to say about that.
Wow, huh? What'd you guys think of that? Let's be in this poll here, and we'll see. I think I pretty much figured. Just live? Okay. Making sure I didn't cut you guys off at the end. Did I cut you guys off? Sorry if I did. I'm watching a little delayed, but wow. I think we all learned something today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I still have more to go here, so please stick around. This is where the juice is gonna come. I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is the line is no longer in existence, and the show goes on. But for some reason I'm not quite certain of right now at this point in time, Mark had to drop off. I'm still trying to figure that out. I know Jeff had said he was going to call over there and try to see what was going on. Let's hope for the best and that everything's okay with him. I apologize for him not being able to make it at this point. And thank you so much for all the survivors that are here. Please stick around because I got some big news. I think you guys already know what it is, but thank you guys so much for being here. It meant a lot. And I just want to, again, just echo the sentiment of the crowd here tonight. You know, that we feel for you guys and we understand, you know, we can see what you've been through, and you guys are amazing people that have survived something that none of us could really ever imagine. And thank you so much. And we got your back, by the way. Anytime you need us, we'll be there for you. Just to let everybody know, in order to prepare for this part of the journey, I spent many days combing through Elan School information. I've watched every documentary there is, including the very first ones to the ones in the middle, to the independently made ones, to this great piece of work by TJ and Mark, which I think really did the job in getting the message across in a way that everybody can relate to about what was going on here at Elan School. Now, I know, and when I say I dug through everything, I also went through all the other the posts, the bulletin boards. There's a lot of history here that was been going on from the conversations going on before Elan, why Elan was still in existence. There's a board named Fortis, and they started there, and that was their way of kind of like letting the people that were still going there kind of see what was going on. But Mark would explain that better than me, so we'll have him back another time. And I'm just hoping that he's okay. He sounded a little sick when he came on with me, earlier, and I was asked him if he was all right, and he was coughing a lot. So I hope that he's okay. If any of the survivors are here, have his phone number and can help Jeff in reaching him, or you can reach him yourself. Just please check in on Mark, make sure he's all right. However, I'm going to save his intro for when he's here, but it's a great one. And I think it really personifies who he is. So we'll just save that one. But okay, on to the news here. We do have trivia tonight, by the way. Trivia. It should be very interesting. Let's see. I guess it should be kind of live, huh? Let me just transition on over here. Okay, hey, how you doing? I'm back. I'm animated again. So can you guys hear me okay? By the way, I haven't been on in a minute. You guys hear me okay? Thank you so much, Max. Thank you so much, Max, for the 5 yen. 500 yen. Wow. He's a millionaire. Thank you so much, dude. I actually don't know how much it is, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, and Max Mura has been a great friend, and he's been a big help too in all this research. So I appreciate you, Max. Thank you so much. So yes, we do have some trivia. But we did notice somebody in the video, didn't you? Did you happen to notice the clip where our good friend Mr. Monty was showing his video? Well, that video was taken down prior to the release of The Last Stop, which I found very odd. If you if you could imagine, I found it very odd. And excuse me, yeah, I found it odd. And thank you, Macor. I found it odd, but I couldn't find the video because he had taken it down or privated it or something, right? So I would just for a while I didn't have that information, and then I came across it. I found it on Kiwi Farms, and I was like, "Oh, here's the old video." So I watched it, and you have to remember that I've watched every Elan documentary, and I've seen every post and just random stuff. This like the littlest anything I could find, and that's how I've learned about Mark, and that's how I learned about how his group and what he was doing. So when I watched the video, I was not convinced by it. So I, not being an expert in the field, recruited a dear friend of mine who still participates in Facebook, which I don't, and they did a great favor for me, and they reached out and handed off a video to the survivors that some of them are here tonight, and they hand off the video just for their analysis, and I asked them just to look at it and to tell me what they thought. So they did that for me, and I appreciate that. The story with Monty and his trip to supposed trip to Elan was based around a release of that video, and then a story by his old associate, Mr. Agent 19. And in that story, there's two different renditions of the story, right? One rendition is one of graping someone while underage, still someone else underage, and that there's no evidence to that being true. So I'd like to just clear that rumor up right now. That did not happen. There is no evidence of that. Okay, so don't ever get caught up saying anything about that, or you'll be in a position for him to identify, locate, and sue you if he cares to. If he thinks you have enough money or whatever. I don't know why he does it. So, anyways, so the second one was that he was involved in the school shooting, and if you know Mr. M's backstory, he tells you that he is raised in the South, and he certainly has a Southern accent of sorts. He certainly does use Southern accent rhetoric, so I have no reason to dispute this at all. And in that story, supposedly his sentence, he was sentenced to go to Elan by a court instead of going to juvie, right? So this is a story that has been left as it is until this point tonight. No one has ever produced any evidence of this, and it's very hard information to find. I dug for weeks to find what I have tonight to show you. Basically, the story goes that there was an incident at a school in Marietta, Georgia, called Murphy High School, in 1975, around October, if you will. So I dug in and I found a database entry that confirmed that this was an event that actually happened. But I could not still find any more information on it. I looked and looked. I emailed the people that that ran the database. They told me to talk to these people. I emailed them. They never got back to me. So I was at a loss. So I didn't know whether this was him or someone else. However, as this journey has been, luck found itself. Oh, thank you, Madcore. I saw that. Thank you so much for the 10 Australian dollars. Thank you so much. He says, here's some for you and your family, mate. Keep up the fight. Thank you so much, Madcore. You're a hell of a guy, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madcore. Thank you very much, sir. I look forward to doing many things with you, my friend. Okay, so basically we're at about this point where I'm not sure how to address this other than to say that it happened. So that's not my style. I'm not going to pin anything on anybody without the correct amount of truth and evidence to do so. However, like I said, in the lore of Mr. Monty and this event, that's where the information stopped until today. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the newspaper article that relates to that shooting. The gentleman in the picture is the person who was shot. His name is Lewis Wilson. He was 35 years old and he was an administrator at the school. If you'd like a copy of this, I have it, and I can read it to you if you'd like, but I feel like I should just maybe give you the gist of it instead. Let me see. I tell you what, you guys want me to read it? I can read the whole thing if you want. Just let me know. Give me thumbs up in the chat if you want me to read it, or just a smiley face if you want me just to kind of highlight it. Yeah, I'll give it a couple of seconds here. We're gonna have a big old trivia question coming up here soon. I tell you what, let's just do it like this. All right. So let's zoom it in here. 15-year-old Murphy High School student shot and critically wounded an assistant principal Friday morning shortly after the administrator paddled the youth, police said. Go up here. All right. Police said the youth walked home after the paddling, obtained a .38 caliber pistol, returned to the school, and fired one shot into the neck of Lester Wilson, 35. Wilson, described by colleagues as a dedicated educator who would do anything within reason to rehabilitate a wayward child, underwent surgery Friday afternoon and was reported in critical condition. A physician at Grady Memorial Hospital said the bullet damaged Wilson's spinal cord and left him paralyzed from mid-chest down. The paddling was performed at the request of the student's mother, police said. Scroll up and do this. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that teachers may paddle students so long as they use only reasonable force. This is 1975, by the way. A spokesman for the school, which is in Atlanta, in DeKalb, denied that a paddling had taken place. It actually did. However, Atlanta Police Lieutenant W.K. Perry said the high school athletic coach, John Wesley Elmore, gave a statement indicating the paddling was administered in his presence. Mr. Wilson hit the student twice on the buttocks with the paddle, according to Elmore's statement to the police. The name of the student was not released. Georgia law does not permit publication of the name of juvenile offenders. The youth, a ninth grader, okay, dates and ages are important here. The ninth grader at the school was charged with aggravated assault, carrying a weapon without a license, and discharging a firearm within second page within city limits, according to school detective B.G. Brown. Lieutenant Perry said the youth was apprehended at his home near the school shortly after the shooting. He said the record indicated the gun was stolen in a burglary in October 1973. That's 2 years prior. That's odd, isn't it? Now, according to Mr. Agent 19's story, he got this really all wrong, and he supposedly was giving Monty's version of it. So go figure, right? He said that Monty had run and hid in the woods and shot himself with a rifle. It was a rifle. It was not a rifle, obviously. Perry said the youth has admitted shooting Wilson. Quote, he just didn't want to get paddled. The homicide lieutenant said. The youth showed uniformed officers where he hid the gun after the shooting, according to Perry. The 15-year-old was placed in the custody of DeKalb Court Juvenile Authorities Friday afternoon. The preliminary hearing was set for Monday. Police said the youth had no prior juvenile record. According to Perry, the youth reportedly was absent from class Thursday. On Friday, his mother delivered him to school and asked Wilson to paddle him. Let's move this up a little bit. Okay. Paddle him. After the paddling, police said the youth was giving a pass to return to his. Oh, shoot. Move this down. Oops. Hold on. Move this down. All right. Class. Instead, they said he went home and got the pistol. He returned to the school, entered Wilson's office, and fired one shot in the presence of two other students and two faculty members. The witness quoted the youth as saying, "You're not going to paddle. You're not going to whip me anymore." Lieutenant Perry said the youth said something like, "You don't tell me what to do." The youth then ran from the school, according to witnesses. Wilson was conscious when he arrived at Grady Hospital. Officials said his wife, Mary Virginia, arrived at the hospital soon after. A man who said he worked with Wilson this summer described the assistant principal as a very energetic, cooperative, hardworking individual. He also had 3 kids, by the way. He was good to work with. The man who would not give his name added, he had no problem with students. He's fair in his treatment of students. I'd see no reason for anyone having that kind of reaction. Industrial arts teacher Charles Carr agreed. I've never known him to mistreat a faculty member, parent, or student, said the 20-year-old Murphy High veteran. Mr. Wilson, a dedicated educator, he comes to school early and works late. He'll do anything within reason to rehabilitate a wayward child, Carr said. Wilson was moved from Grady X-ray room into surgery around noon. The physician who treated Wilson said he is partially paralyzed and it's doubtful he can recover this function. We think he has some irreversible damage to his spinal column. Police said the youth's mother was contacted by telephone shortly after the apprehension of her son, but said she could not come down to the police headquarters because she had a young child in the house. Perry said the mother gave police permission to interview the youth. He said police are still investigating to determine how the youth came into possession of the pistol. The shooting took place shortly before 9:30. Is that 9:30 a.m. The spokesman at Murphy, Norman Thomas, said, as far as the information we have available at this point, this paddling did not occur. So okay, there's just a little back and forth. All right. So anyways, I wanted to read those 2 parts to you and make sure that we had an understanding about that. All right. So as you can see, there's no name associated with it because of the age of the person who perpetrated the crime. However, I will say this about Mr. Lewis. Him and his wife are now deceased. They left 3 children, and to be paralyzed at 35 must have been quite an ordeal for that family. I'm sure that they have not forgotten this incident and never will. May they both, Mr. Wilson and his wife both rest in peace. And that's all I can say about this. I cannot go any further because I do not have any more evidence or information on the matter. However, as I said earlier before I started this story, to give you the backstory on it, thank you, TR. Thank you so much. TR with $10. Thank you. Remind me to never, ever piss what off winning or Max Mura that can pull up anything in anyone's past. Hey, I don't make a habit out of this, man. I'm not an identifier and a locator, but Mr. Monograph will teach you some skills, if you will. He has turned many people into very good sleuths and detectives. Um, anyways, yeah, well, I'm a researcher by nature. I question to the void. I'm a root cause analyst, and I never settle. I never settle until I know what the truth is, or I just wait until I figure it out. I don't spout off about things, and I recommend when it comes to the internet and it comes to people and rumors. I have a saying. I say rumors fill the poison well. All right. So the poisoned well is full of rumors. All right. These are bad things. They break up friendships, they destroy families, and they ruin lives. And just as guilty as some people are of making assumptions about Mr. Monograph, and he's equally as guilty, I believe, in making assumptions about others. We all need to kind of stop with the rumor mills and stop using this as a weapon. It's not a weapon for sane, healthy people. And I believe most people understand this. We need to all, I believe, work together to squash people who engage in well poisoning and just basically put them to the side. There's no need for their input on anything. So, and of course, it's a very telling thing too. If it's innocence, then you should ask questions about it before you say anything. And if someone brings a rumor about someone else to you, do what I do. Go to them and ask them and say, I've heard from so and so this, and it bothered me, so I wanted to get your opinion on it. That's how you kill the poison well. So back to the story here, and we're going to get right to our trivia question after this. In fact, I'm going to start preparing it as we speak. Let me just get this over here. Make sure I got everything. Okay. All right. So so in that, I made a video with Mr. Monograph's with that video from Kiwi Farms that I saw, and I asked the survivors to take a look at it and give me their opinion on whether he was there or not, and if you knew him. And I was looking for a name, and basically what I was doing first was trying to just to ask in a picture that I thought he was in. I really thought I found him in a picture at Elan, but I was told that it was not him. It was a director who I won't name. But evidently it wasn't a great guy. But no, it wasn't him. So that's when this investigation went a little bit further. And like this investigation, twists and turns and rabbit holes and such, everything you try to learn about Mr. Monograph is very, very, very twisted and very, like, you run into dead ends, you run into false avenues, you run into all kinds of things. So that's an interesting point, and we're going to cover that on later streams. I want to focus on Elan today. Okay, so here we go. I'm preparing this. I'm going to do a poll, and then I'm going to put a trivia question up. All right. And I'm going to ask you, I'm putting it up right now. It's going to be simple. Like, what's the answer? Okay. And add option. Okay. Okay. So this is 1. This is 2. Guys excited? We're almost there. And this is 4. Okay, don't answer this question yet because I have to show you something. I'm going to save it for a minute. Okay, so where is the trivia question? Okay, here comes the trivia question. All right, I'm gonna step aside here and get out of the way for this one. And if you watch the whole movie, this one's probably going to be really easy. But who knows? Because now you have to decide for yourself. I will not give you the answer, but you can totally guess it. Okay, community, here it is. Do 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 do. I should have gotten some music for this. All right, guys, have at it. The answer key is, the poll is the answer. So just pick the answer you believe, and let me know it. We'll give it some time here, and we'll just hang out and chat, and you guys just let me know what you think. Oh, hey, it's China to 3. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I thought you'd like this one. You did a pretty good job breaking the story, for sure. I've got a surprise ending for you though. Who knows? Yeah, that case, huh? How about that? It was your video, sir, that I learned this stuff from, Mr. China to 3, Sheriff of YouTube. That is. I'm sorry. it was your videos that I came across. Probably the person who. Let me just talk about China to 3 real quick. This gentleman was engaged with Mr. Monograph because his father was being smeared by him. So he as a good son, he stood up for his dad, and he went to war with him like no other. He is very famous for a few things. One, I think he's probably posted more videos about the subject than anybody else that I've seen. I've done a lot of research. I've watched probably every video out there, and this man worked his ass off to get information out there, and he did his very best, I believe. I know we don't see eye to eye on everything, but there is we are fellow travelers for sure. And if you ever run across China to 3 or you run across the Sheriff of YouTube, you will find a plethora of information, and you'll get to see some very funny moments where he does things like call Monograph every day. What was it? Please put it in the chat. Yeah, dude, he's been going at him for a long time. He's faced doxing. He's lost his job because of Monograph. He suffered, and he came out. He's still fine. He came out, and he's doing well. But he probably has more videos than anybody else out there on more different channels, and I certainly learned a lot from watching his videos. They steered me in directions I needed to go at the right times, including this direction. And the Agent 19 stuff about the story that was released that put me on track to find the information that I did. So thank you, China to 3. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sheriff of YouTube. I don't know what you go by these days, but I just think of you as China to 3. So sorry if I'm saying this wrong and offending you, but thank you so much for your contribution to this effort. I'm gladly picking up the torch on this one, and I will pass along all the information that I acquired on my journey, including a how to not suffer from Monty's rage, if you will, or his responding, let me say. And just a simple thing for future people if Monograph decides to continue to do this. I'm hoping that at the end of this, he'll decide that, you know what, it's better just to do something else, because the troll business, you're the king, you're the last one left, man. You won. And I respect you for that, at least, you know. You have good qualities in you, and I see kindness in your heart when you talk to your dog, you talk to your lady. I'm hoping that's not fake. Maybe there is a way someday for you to realize that, hey, you know, it's okay to hang this up. It's okay to let it go, and maybe just focus on what you're doing right now. And what I've seen you doing lately is just trying to be a nicer person. You know, being cool to the expert. We all love the expert. He's a nice guy. You know, to be telling your chat about things like that. I don't agree with your politics. I never will. We'll talk about politics later, but and that's not to say that we're not really at the core believing the same things. It's just the way you handle it and the kind of decisions you're making. But that has to do with another conversation. I need to talk to a more rational Monty about that. That's not kind of hung up on other things. When that day comes, you know, maybe there'll be a conversation. Maybe I'll finally get that interview, huh? You know, that could definitely stop some of the leak of information that's gonna happen. Anyways, so China to 3 did a great job. And I took the Agent 19 story and I found out the truth about it. And also, I met the Elan survivor. So thank you, Monograph. Thank you, China to 3, for allowing me to learn about Elan School and the Elan survivors, because without this experience, I would not have done that. And I would not have been able to bring that information to you all. I think we all grew a lot today learning this information. I think we all became better people for it. I think we all learned how to appreciate our lives better from it. I know I did. I know that this experience has changed me in many good ways. It's made me a stronger person. And Mr. Montegraph, if you're listening, thank you for that. You never let me take a shortcut during this process, and whether you meant it or not, you learned me something. All right. So you called it. Yeah, China to 3 called him 780 times in 7 days. Is that not? Dude, please go sub him up, and please go check out his work. You might agree with, you know, dude, just go check out the phone calls. The phone calls are hilarious. He did wake up calls every day. James, he did wake up calls every day, and That was just hilarious. He's a funny dude. He threw a birthday party for him, and then did this blowtorch thing with the candles. Dude, he was he's quite a character. He's quite a character. Okay, so we got 20 votes in. We got what we got in the chat? We got 32 in the chat. I'm gonna leave it up longer. I'm gonna leave it up. I want everybody to have their say. That's the way I do things. And that's the way we did things during the investigation of Elon, and that's the way I'm always gonna do them. I want everybody to have their chance. Yes. My original channel name was James DLab1. Okay, great. Let's see. Actually, let me go over here. I can actually highlight these things. Where is it at? I forgot I could do this. I lost more than 5,000 videos to that creep money of 10 years of being abused by him on this platform. Yeah, hey, I tell you what, China to 3, or James, or however you want to be addressed these days. I'll call you whatever you want. That is another part of the story. And while we're waiting for the last few votes to come in on the poll, are the trivia question. Yeah, we have a lot of trivia questions like this, guys. This is another story I found out, and let me tell you something. China 3. I got to the point where you were at one time, and you can ask my friends here, where I was like, "There's got to be some kind of conspiracy at YouTube with this guy." I mean, I tell you the story. Like one of the research videos I sent to Mark. Oh shoot, I forgot an important part of this too. I'll tell it after this. Actually, that's what I'm supposed to do. So, anyways, I sent it to him, and I never intended on showing it to anybody. Like I was going to delete it after he watched it. It wasn't part of this at all. And it had a clip of Monograph from I believe one of your videos. I just did a clip for hey, this is what I want you to see, right? And he got a notification about it. YouTube sent him an invitation to watch the entire video, like within minutes. And so within 20 hours, it was pulled down. Within 20 hours, I had to go put it somewhere else. Yes, I did put it somewhere else, Monty. I'm not dumb. But yeah, the information did get out. So yeah, copyright strike away, okay? You won't be finding any more of that kind of stuff on my channel, sir. Maybe on dozens of others, but not mine. Anyways, yeah, it does seem that way, James. It does seem that way. It does seem like there's something going on there. But and then on the other hand, if you think about it, maybe he just has a real mastery of the system, and we're just noobs, like he tells us. Like in a sense that I'm sorry if you don't know how the internet works. Well, we're not all that involved in trying to copyright strike people and gain their IP address through hacking the Google system, which is another thing Mr. China to 3 pointed out in his videos. He did do a lot of good work, and he did break a lot of information. So please give him a round of applause for his efforts, because I see it, dude, and I recognize it. And like I said, despite any differences we may have, we are fellow travelers, and I do respect your work and the effort you put into it. Yeah, so that was breaking that was key as well, right? That when you respond to those claims, and he gets more information on you, and then he knows how to go in there and do his little thing. So don't think that he's a dumbass. Don't think he's a retard. Don't think that he's stupid. The guy has skills. All right, I'm going to say it. He does. They're just not the skills that you and I have, but they're skills. I have some skills too. I'm demonstrating some of them here. Some of the other skills I have, I'm not going to demonstrate, because I don't want to become you, but I could. But that's not what I do. I never become what I fight. That defeats the purpose. You lose when you become what you fight. As somebody with a fair and balanced mind, evidently, has learned recently, that don't become what you fight. Stay on the high road. You'll always get there first, okay? It may not seem like it at times, and at times during this journey, it didn't seem like it to me. There's times at this journey I wanted to fight dirty, but I didn't, especially when you involve my friends, but and people that are looking out for me. So, anyways, hey, well, how are we doing on that poll? Let me take a look. Okay, we got 21 votes. Anybody else want to get in on this? I'm getting ready to end it. Let's give it we'll give it one more minute to vote. So please, just take a wild guess. Feel free. We got 21 votes, 11 minutes in. Okay. We're gonna come up here at 11:55. I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna tell the last part of the story, and then I'm gonna send you over to Cool Frog for the news at 12. And then we are gonna meet again on Saturday with Mr. Jeff Bloken. He was in the chat tonight. He's a cool dude. You saw him in the video. He had his hat on backwards. He's the guy who set the record for like the longest escapes. And dude, I tell you what, man, both him and Mark seem like just brothers from another mother to me. I can't tell you that I regret anything that has happened because I got to meet those guys and I got to learn about Elan and I got to meet the survivors. And being someone who's been through some things myself, I completely empathize with them and they know I got their back. I will look out for them. Okay, here we go. Ending the poll now. All right, and there you have it. Number two wins at 75%. And you know what they say about the chat? They're always right. How about that? And this is confirmed information. These trivia questions have been confirmed by experts. So please think no differently. There's nothing but truth going on here tonight. And anybody that wants to dispute the truth can try. But I'll gladly entertain any disputing. However, if Mr. Mark Babitz was here, he would have this message. Hold on, let me just change this real quick. He would have this message for Mr. Montegraph, and I will deliver it on his behalf. If you can produce your plaque and a name, and you swear up and down that you went to Elan School, then they're willing to listen to you. Otherwise, I'd probably stay away from there if I was you. I know there's some people, they're used to trolls trying to take credit for this. I don't understand people who would ever want to be a victim or want to pretend that they were a survivor of an abuse that they were not. There's so much trouble in the world. Why bother? Why that was done? If it was a troll job because you were hanging out on Fortis stealing IP addresses, yes, I saw you. But I don't know if that was it or if it was something else. But whatever it was, dude. If you made a mistake, apologize for it. If you were there and I've made a mistake, I will apologize for it. Produce your plaque, give your name. That's your out. So unfortunately, there's another part of this story I must tell. What happened in the Elan Survivors group is this. During the Sandy Hook incidents, where the Sandy Hook's hoaxers, these anti-truthers, were spreading lies about a staged event and crisis actors, they were also harassing parents. And one of those parents was Lenny Posner. Lenny Posner had a son named Noah, and Noah was killed in the Sandy Hook incident. He was a very cute little boy, and it was very sad. A lot of cute little kids were killed that day, and it was not a good thing. And we disavow and we resent anyone who makes light of this situation. I fought these guys on the front line, spreading this disinformation. Every day and every night, as hard as I worked on this research, I fought them. Believe that. Now that you know me, you know that that's true, don't you? But unfortunately, there was another victim in this case. One that has gone unnamed and unsung to this point. And one of the good things that came out of this adventure is that we were able to clear his name because a gentleman by the name of Wayne Edward Brown took the fall for Montegraph in the Elan Survivors group. Mr. Mark Babitz would tell you if he was here, and we will talk about it again when he comes back. I certainly hope that he's doing well. I am quite worried about him. He unfortunately reacted in such a way that gave Mr. Babitz the idea that he was actually Montegraph, and they do look similar. I don't know if there's any connection between the two of them. Mr. Brown has certainly had his share of troubles, but he looked like at one point he was getting his life together. I was able to put a video together proving this to Mr. Babitz by comparing the two. That's the video Monty saw. Thanks to YouTube. Thanks YouTube for totally being assholes. And making sure that Monograph had a front row seat to my secret video. Thank you. And he and so I Mark is such a great guy, such a true man. He was able to. He says, "Hey, look, I make mistakes, and I don't. If I make a mistake, I'm gonna own it, and I'm gonna make up for it." So I reached out to Mr. Brown to give him the good news, to tell him that his name had been cleared, and to please return to the Elan Survivors Group, where people are waiting with open arms to welcome him back. Unfortunately, Mr. Brown, I believe, is having a bit of trouble these days. I hope that some of the Elan survivors that are here do hear my message. And if you'd like to reach out to him, I do have his phone number. I know it works because I texted him and I left messages. He did respond a couple times, but it was very vague, and he never wanted to actually get on the phone and talk or settle this. I believe he's frightened or in a bit of trouble. So I'm happy to pass this number along through Mark or Jeff if you guys would like to. If anybody feels motivated to help Mr. Brown out, I think this would be a good thing. But yes, he took the fall for Monty, and his name is now cleared, and he is now welcomed back into the fold. And for what it's worth, Mr. Brown, who was mistaken for Monograph, and paid the price through exile of his own choosing. I think he ran out of fear. He was a member. He was at Elan 4, and if you ever watched the Monograph Elan video, he says he was a part of Elan 7. So yet again, another complete miss on that part. And Mr. Brown, while he is the same height, 6 foot as Mr. Monograph, he has bright blue eyes, and he does not look like him. It took me a second though. I had to look and be like, okay, well, was Monty wearing a costume or what? Like I had to look, but it was, for people who only saw that flash in the last stop, which by the way, that video ended up in the last stop because it was not. There was a lot of word taking. Let's put it on. Jeff and I will talk more about that when in the making the film, which is fine because it was a close-knit group and it was supposed to be just Survivor. So I understand the position of the people that were there. However, this is not a cool thing if you were not a survivor and you snuck into this video. As a survivor myself, not of the Elan School, but of other things, it's disgusting. Very disgusting. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are right at time. Did I set up a redirect? Can I still do this? Let me see. I think I can still do it. I'm going to set up a redirect right now to send you over to Mr. Frog. And I will hopefully stop in at some point. I know he reads the news tonight, so I'm not going to interrupt that. But where is the redirect? Customization. Oh, I got it. Okay. All right. Hopefully he's got his video up now. I was going to do it earlier, and I still don't see it. Let me just type it in. Well, I hope you guys had a good time tonight, man. Jeff is going to be a great time. Please come back Saturday because, okay, upcoming. That's Cool Frog Gaming. What the hell? Cool Frog. I don't see your video, bud. I don't see your video. Is he still streaming tonight? Does anybody know? Okay, I tell you what. Go to Cool Frog's channel. I would redirect you there, but I don't see it anywhere. That's really strange. Cool Frog. Type it in cool. I type it in frog, and all I get is Cool Frog Gaming, and evidently it's been episode 1's been sitting there for quite a while. Is that what he's doing tonight? I don't know, but I'm not gonna waste anybody's time. Cool Frog is streaming tonight. Thank you so much for being here, and please like and share the video. Make plans to come back Saturday. I'll have the link for that out soon. And like I said, I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to the Elan survivors for being here. You're beautiful people. Live every day. We should live every day like they do, appreciating life and surviving what confronts us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this evening. I hope to see you Saturday. And while I'm fiddling with this, trying to get this screen up. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it this way. I have to get the outro music. Let's see. Okay, so while I do that, thank you so much for being here. And hey,